If you come at the king, you best not miss.
Acknowledge us.
Hey, we here at the Red Carpet Ring and Toxic Scandal. Turnbuckle King here. We're here talking about Get Ready for the Wildest Ride of Mox Audiobook Part 3. We are talking about the life of Jon Moxley, his whole career. So tune in, get the likes of as you come in. We're talking about what I learned from Jon Moxley's Mox Audiobook with Shocky Part 3. This is the final part of the audiobook. So will be this after this, there'll be no more. You guys tune in. Like I say, without further ado, I will let the book go and let Jon Moxley speak his thing like he always been doing. Very good audiobook though thus far. Very, very good audiobook. But this is the last part, like I said before, and then we'll hear more about mostly his current career up to, I want to say, up to pandemic time. But with that being said, let's get into it. Let's hear what Jon Moxley got to say. Let's see. So you guys enjoy the book. We'll let Mox speak. I have enjoyed it so far. Great book. And we will continue where I left off on the last part of the book.
That question was getting answered. We were winning. So the reaction and the next logical question was, Jesus, who the fuck are these guys? We command the ring, acutely aware of where our partners are at all times, implicit trust in one another. I am happy to utilize chairs. I bring the Necro Butcher chair body slam to WWE, delivering two to Brian. I give Kane a Lita-inspired DDT, driving his thick, masked head into a chair. I'm in the zone. Feeling it. We've been riding the wave of the hot crowd. It almost seems too good to be true. About the time Seth and I are positioning Brian for a double superplex off the table propped up on the top turnbuckle, we feel and hear the crowd. We know this is the shit. We attempt the same superplex on Kane, but he knocks me down and sends Seth careening to the floor before bouncing off that table and sailing his big ass through the air with a vintage flying cow like it was 1998. The match is a wild and exhausting sprint. Complete chaos. We triple powerbomb Ryback through a table again, but there's Brian diving through the ropes and kicking the piss out of all of us. Brian puts me in the S-lock, then Seth, then Roman, but there's just too many of these Shield guys. I convince Kane to chokeslam me through an open chair. He's reluctant at first, but I assure him I'll be fine. I see the people stand up as Kane goozles me. They see it coming. I destroy the chair. Roman makes the save. Too many of them. Ryback seems to have it in the bag and hits his finish in the middle, but too many goddamn Shield guys. In a spontaneous moment of explosive physicality, Roman spears Kane through the barricade. We bury him in rubble, taking him off the board. We lure Ryback away from the ring. He launches Seth from a ladder 15 feet to the floor. Seth takes a gnarly bump and smokes his head on a table. Ryback stands triumphant for a moment. I got one, he thinks. It's too late, though. It's already over. Roman and I have Brian 2-on-1 in the ring. No help is coming for him. He's eaten alive. I feed Brian up to Roman sitting on the top turnbuckle for a super bomb through a table in the middle of the ring. Roman makes the cover. I play defense, but I know there's no need. It's checkmate. It's an emphatic statement. Coming through in the clutch like we did, we were made. Soon, Shield six-mans would become must-see TV. We would become an even more well-oiled machine, tearing the house down every night all over the country against every all-star combination you could think of. Even the guys who didn't like us eventually came around. Instead of feeling threatened by the Shield, now they wanted to work with us. We were having killer match after killer match and making our opponents look great. We would go on a long, undefeated streak in six-man tags. The writers kept trying to beat us. We refused time after time, standing our ground together. It got downright awkward sometimes, but we had strength and solidarity. We knew the equity in what we had built and were not willing to give it away. I remember in February, we were gearing up for a pay-per-view match with Ryback, Sheamus, and John Cena. Cena was going to the main event at Mania. We were hot. We were fresh. If we went out there with Cena and took the fucking schmutz and got pinned like everybody else, we would then become everybody else. It would kill us. I remember after the go home, we're all being in the car with an uneasy feeling in my stomach. I ain't fucking doing it, I said. Whether they fire us or we get seated and killed off, it's all the same. We're dead either way. Hell no, Seth said. They're not beating us. Nah, dog, Roman concurred. Eventually, after months and months, we couldn't delay the inevitable any longer, and on SmackDown, we lost the six-man tag for the first time on free TV. Thinking back on it now, I still think we could have gotten way more out of that undefeated streak, but writer's gonna write. Fittingly, and upon our insistence, it would be Brian that's there was so much to come, and it would come at us fast. Headlining Europe tours, opening the show in Wales, and jumping in a helicopter to London while Raw was already on the air. We landed and walked straight up the concourse for a six-man tag we'd have to call on the fly with Kane, Bryan, and The Undertaker. Our first WrestleMania, I remember walking out into the open air of the stadium, staged under an awning. Before our music hit with nothing playing on the speakers, I felt the reverberation of the giant human mass buzzing in my bones. We would get our first real contracts. As a team, we decided to not draw any attention to the matter and milk those developmental contracts, double dipping for as long as possible. We'd get our regular weekly checks plus payoffs for house shows, TVs, pay-per-view checks, and a free rental car. After Europe, we landed on a Monday afternoon with the Blue Tour, but instead of getting a day off before SmackDown, we were picked up by a bus and taken to Raw immediately. We walked into Nationwide Arena in Columbus, Ohio, and tore the house down in yet another six-man main event. Afterward, the jig was up. We were brought into an office and we expected to sign our standard low downside guarantees. By this time, however, we were an established main event act. We were the workhorses they were relying on more and more. Vince rewarded us by giving us more than double the standard downside, increasing every year for 3 years. Ultimately, that didn't matter because being on the road Friday to Tuesday every week for the next 2 years, we always crushed our downside, but up to that point, we had been nickel and diming, splitting express deal rooms on Priceline between the three of us. I didn't mind sleeping on the floor. I was good at it. As far as we knew, this could end at any moment. When we walked out of that office, we were walking on air. They stuffed us in a car service to shuttle us to somewhere in Michigan for SmackDown. As we relaxed in the Suburban, we felt a huge sense of victory. We had taken the hill and the money. Together, we had gotten to the honey hole. That was all in the near future. Back in Brooklyn, the Babyfaces, the first all-star team we ever defeated, are all separated by at least 100 feet when the match ends. Divided and conquered. Roman and I pick up Seth and three of us leave together in the same camera shot, no man left behind. All the final pieces that made up the Shield fell into place, and it happened in real time. 3 guys, all totally different, who believed in themselves and each other. 3 guys from different backgrounds who brought something different to the table, came together as a team with a common goal. 3 guys with attitudes, powered by the only fuel I've ever known: hunger, anger, frustration, and a drive to take down all who sought to stand in their way. We became unstoppable. Interlude number 1. Las Vegas, March 23rd, 2021, 6:58 a.m. My hips hurt, especially the left one. What the fuck, my hips? If there was ever a sign of getting old, this must be it. I've never really had trouble with my knees either. In fact, I've violently twisted and torqued my lower limbs in enough directions they shouldn't even be attached to my body anymore. Swelling and pain comes, of course, but it always vanishes like it was never there. A little too expediently, I've often thought. Suspiciously, like I'm freaking made of elastic. That was then. This is now. I'm sitting downstairs this morning, sipping a coffee. Wife and dogs are still in bed. The sun is freshly risen, and I listen to the birds chirping outside as I write. A great feature of this house is the greenery in the backyard. We have a lot of trees, so we get all kinds of birds. Lots of hummingbirds. Sometimes a roadrunner wanders in. We have one big-ass tree native to the Mediterranean. God bless whoever got that sumbitch to grow in the desert. I put a chew in. Maybe the nicotine will somehow magically make my knees stop aching and create lubrication in my hips. My newfound problems that seem to surface at the exact moment I turn 35. I got to train at 8 a.m. with Gil a little earlier than usual as I have to fly to Jacksonville at 2 p.m. and I want to get something in before I sit on a plane all day. I usually train in the morning and wake up 2 hours prior because it takes my creaky body at least an hour to loosen up and become operable. I'll arrive at Jacksonville just before midnight and rent a car. This new Marriott we're staying at is 45 minutes from the airport, so I'll be in my room about 1 a.m. I will call Renee and put Family Guy or Friends on the TV in the background, as has been my habit in hotels for years. One of them is usually on around that time. I'll sit down and try and write. If I'm inspired, I'll just read a little, or I'll play with promos in my head, probably sip a cocktail. I'll consider having a hot shower to loosen up my neck, which will be immobile by that time, and soothe the rest of my aching muscles. But I won't, because then I'd have to get up. Joke Claudio told me. Can April March? I'm not sure, but February may. January 2019. First I heard of Tony Khan was from Chris Jericho. I hadn't talked with Chris in some time about anything that didn't involve Sasquatch, lake monsters, or UFOs. I didn't know he'd been doing a lot of stuff outside WWE. He wrestled for New Japan and even has his own cruise now. After our New Year's Day hike, I mentioned to Renee that I was going to hit up Jericho and get the lay of the land from his perspective. I hadn't been on the Indies since 2011, and the whole landscape outside WWE had changed dramatically in 8 years. I never made dick on the Indies, but now a lot of folks are making good money. There are groups with TV. There was something called GCW now. These days, everyone can stream. Guess DVDs aren't a thing anymore. Before I left CZW, Drake, Nick Gage, and I had a three-way light tube fest in front of 50 rabid Lumberton, North Carolina fans at a weird bot show, sacrificing pints of blood for the sole purpose of putting out a hot seller on Smart Mark Video. Everything's different. I'm fucking Rip Van Winkle. There seemed to be a lot of cross-promotion now. It was a little overwhelming trying to make sense of it all. I figured Jericho could give me a good look at who might be totally full of shit. I also just wanted to talk to another wrestler. I hadn't breathed a word about my plans to anyone but my wife, and I didn't feel like I'd talk about it with anybody in WWE. Chris is one of the smartest guys in the business and somebody I trust, so I was curious about what the reaction would be when I told him I was planning to walk across the bridge I knew full well would likely blow up behind me. I sent Jericho a text on the afternoon of January 1st to hit me up. I never heard back. He's a busy dude, probably on tour or some shit. I saw some stuff about this new AEW thing over the next couple weeks. I thought it was just another indie. I saw some guys I see on all these other shows. That Pentagon dude. It looked like they were bringing in Jericho for a big show. That's cool. I didn't think it was anything out of the ordinary. Seems like there's 200 companies and they all have 3 letters. I had too many of my own problems at hand to go sorting through them all. For now, I was just focused on getting to the finish line. It was a few weeks later. I was riding in the back seat with Hennig and Bo on the way to Memphis for Raw. I had to text Jenna Loeb from TR about something, and scrolling through the J's in my phone right next to her name was Jericho New. Now I remember. The motherfucker had changed his number a few months back, and I had texted his old one. I texted Chris's current number the same message I had before, and about 30 seconds later, he hit me back. We decided to talk the next day. Jericho called me while I was in the hotel room, dreading having to go to Raw that afternoon. This would be a conversation of the highest kayfabe, we agreed, before I finally dropped my bombshell along with 3 or 4 minutes of the reasoning that had brought me here. I half expected Jericho to try to talk me off the ledge. For all I knew, he was gearing up for a return at the Royal Rumble. Without hesitation, he just said, "Yeah, that's why I left," before going into some of his own creative frustrations. I volleyed back some more of my own baggage, which he returned with more of his own. The conversation quickly escalated into a full-blown bitching about WWE session, the kind that can only take place between 2 people who have worked there. We talked for almost an hour before he mentioned this AEW thing. He explained to me that this is a real thing and he's signed a deal there. There's real money, real backing. These people aren't stupid, and they're trying to do it right. There's a guy named Tony Khan. They're going to make a go of it, he says. This is what I'm doing for the next 3 years. This is a lot to process. My initial reaction is, I want to be a part of it. I try to quell my excitement, but it's just so nice to talk about new possibilities instead of how I'm gonna buttfuck a corpse in Seg 6 tonight. Just make sure you finish in 4 minutes, and Vince wants to see a lot of brains. Cody Rhodes is involved. I know Cody. Jericho asks if he can have Cody call me. I agree. This remains top secret security clearance level shit. Cody calls me as I'm pulling into the garage for TV. I go into an empty staircase in the concourse and call back. Cody explains to me what's happening with AEW. I listen. There's much more infrastructure in place than they're letting on. There's talk of network television. I'm filled in on what exactly AEW is. This guy Tony Khan again. It's mostly just a pleasant catch-up conversation. There's only so much to talk about. I still have almost 4 months left with WWE, and AEW ain't even going to run a show till May, as it would turn out, 25 days after my WWE contract expired. Where? Wait, what MGM? Vegas. Pretty fucking interesting. May 2019. It wasn't as easy of a decision to sign with AEW as you might think. The last few months in WWE were exhausting and super awkward. I was mentally shot. I didn't feel like I had the energy to just jump right back into being on TV every week and dealing with all these people. What if this AEW thing just turned out to be another WWE? I just wanted space. I just needed to get my head right. A one-night stand sounded nice, but I wasn't looking for a long-term relationship. I didn't want to just jump right into a rebound fling and regret it as soon as I woke up naked in the bathtub at the Hard Rock with a contractual obligation to a company I knew nothing about. But I liked everything I was hearing. I can play my music my own way, I'm told. There are no scriptwriters. What's more, though, was the timing. Such serendipity is hard to ignore. So much in this life is about timing. I didn't choose Double or Nothing. The way I saw it was, of all the people in the business, at what looked to be a seminal moment for the industry, the universe chose me. This was meant to be. But my confidence was in the toilet. Before meeting Tony for the first time, I wondered what product I was even selling. It would have been the easiest thing in the world for me to make a truckload of cash just going around to every show in the country, hitting a dirty deeds and signing autographs, but that was the farthest thing from what I wanted. I certainly didn't want to get brought into a fledgling promotion with new television as a former WWE superstar. I didn't want to be put on top anywhere because I had a name. I didn't want to rely on any of that. I basically wanted to start over. I also had no idea how the fans would react. I remembered back to when I first realized I wanted to leave WWE, and it occurred to me that if I did show up at, say, a Ring of Honor, for example, I might be violently rejected. Those fans are there because they're seeking an alternative to WWE. If the fucking guy from Raw with the ketchup and mustard shooter shows up, I thought they'd shit all over it. I wondered if I was now so synonymous with horseshit WWE creative that it would be impossible for me to ever be accepted anywhere. Booked into oblivion in WWE and blackballed from the rest of the industry. Done. That was my fear. I almost wanted to warn AEW. Thank you for your interest, but trust me, you don't want to do this. I'm damaged goods, and if you bring me in, I'll ruin your promotion before you even get it off the ground. I finally met with Tony Khan. He, along with Cody and Brandy, came to my house in Vegas some weeks before Double or Nothing. The show was AEW's promotional debut on pay-per-view from the MGM Grand, about 15 minutes from where we sat at my dining room table. I had never taken part in a clandestine business meeting before, so this was pretty cool. Funnily enough, the Uber driver who brought them to the house had driven Renee and me a few times. He was a fan and knew exactly what was going on. "So you're meeting with Dean," he said. Tony tipped him $200 and he kept his mouth shut, but that must have been fun for him to know something no other wrestling fan in the world knew for a while. We had a great little hangout. The first thing I noticed about Tony was he was, first and foremost, a wrestling fan. I was so jaded I had almost forgotten what it was like to be a pure, untainted fan of professional wrestling. Today, even though Tony is my boss, it just feels like he's my friend who's also a big wrestling fan. The phrase I hear most often from Tony when talking about wrestling-related matters is probably, "Dude, sick." This guy is a factoid remembering machine. He's familiar with any obscure reference you could dream up. That night we talked about ECW and old school wrestling. He made a lot of points about current wrestling and what he planned to do differently, to which I replied every time, "Dude, I've been saying that for years." He told me he used to do some shit in college that was like fantasy football for wrestling, and he had CZW era Jon Moxley in his deal. So this guy knew me to a degree. He wasn't just trying to buy up any available ex-WWE guys. After having some drinks and shooting the shit, we got down to brass tacks. I had some questions. I got them all answered. I laid out my thoughts, feelings, wants, and needs. I wasn't looking to go to the highest bidder. Money never got brought up. I just wanted to be sure this was a fit. This was scary. I had just gone through a grueling divorce. And here we go again. This was a commitment. All of our goals were in alignment. There was no reason to say no other than fear of failure. I made my position clear. If everything I've been told is true, if this is what we're doing and this is how it's going to be done, I'm in. I'll ride with y'all. May 25th, 2019, Las Vegas. We watched Batman vs. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and I took a nap. My mom was in town. We both agreed that movie was surprisingly good. I'd let myself get a little too hyped up early in the day. I'd been waiting for this moment for a long time by this point. It's important to conserve your mental energy on the day of a TV or pay-per-view. You don't want to peak too early. So I took a siesta. The rumor mill was running rampant. I tried to play coy with my mom about what my first move was going to be. I can never bring myself to ruin a surprise for anybody. I often keep everyone in the dark, even my closest friends. My mom wasn't buying any of this bullshit, however. She was going to be in Vegas one way or another. My mom is my biggest fan and good luck charm. Everything seems to work out perfectly when she's in the audience. I would need her tonight. If this crowd revolts at the sight of me, my career may be over. I would be the surprise at the end of the pay-per-view and drop both Jericho and Kenny Omega, the de facto top heel and top babyface on the maiden voyage. If they didn't care about me or they hated me, it would be a disaster. I put all my chips on the table, and to AEW's credit, so did they, in a bet that I still had goodwill with the fans. It seemed like I was the only one with reservations. I'd been thinking low-key, off-Broadway. I kind of didn't want any attention. I just wanted to be free to exist again. This was the polar opposite. Jericho was certain it was going to be the greatest thing. It was his idea. And boom, you're the biggest star in the business, he told me over the phone. Fuck. I hope so. All right, no time to be a pussy about this, babe. Here we go. I like the ambiguity of taking out guys on both sides of the fence. If I was rejected, as I feared, I would be a heel. I was a heel in my mind going in. If they chant shit at me or make jokes, it doesn't matter. I'm going to murder their hero in front of them. I would be a vicious, homicidal heel, and I would turn it into real visceral heat in no time at all. This was a defense mechanism. Thinking about it now, nobody else saw it that way. About 3 p.m., Cody sends me a video he took on his phone, walking the route from the ring over the rails through the crowd to the stage. That's where I would throw Kenny off some kind of set piece, what was a giant set of poker chips, a vision Kenny had that he brought to life. I familiarized myself with the terrain. I choose to wear a pair of pants I got from a store in the mall called Robin's Jeans. I put them on as well as a hoodie. I pack a small bag. I don't need much. Really, just the spray-painted Mox vest I made the other day. It didn't look too good, so Renee took some acrylic paint and doctored it up to make the orange really pop. About 5 p.m., Atlas Security arrives at my house to take my mother and me to the venue. I wear a full disguise, hood up, sunglasses, a bandana over my face, arriving at the MGM as the pre-show is beginning. My mother is passed off to someone who will take her to her seat in the audience. Later, during the main event, she will be ushered to ringside. Ryan Loco, the best photographer in the game, who shot the cover of this very book, will be suspicious. He will ask her if she's here to see somebody, maybe a family member. I can't tell you, my mother will dutifully answer. I am escorted to Cody's dressing room, where I will hide. An hour passes before I take my disguise off as people keep popping their heads in. Security finally locks the room down and I get comfortable. I shoot the shit with Cody and watch the show on the flat screen TV mounted on the wall. Bret Hart presents the AEW World Championship belt. Dope. Jericho and Kenny come in and we go over the deal. I haven't seen Chris in years. It's the first time I've met Kenny. I tell him my wife and I just watched this documentary and it was really good. I won't get a chance to take a look at or get a feel for this giant set of poker chips in person, but Kenny is confident he won't die. Referee Paul Turner comes in to confirm what I need from him. He will get a DDT, the first of his many. BJ Whitmer pops in to say hi. It's good to see him. It's been forever. The show rolls on. Cody returns to the room, covered in Dustin's blood. He doesn't want to take a shower and close the book in the moment. I know the feeling. No new visitors. I am left alone. The second to last match is going to the ring. The Young Bucks versus the Lucha Brothers. When I get home later, Renee and Amy Dumas, who happen to be over visiting, will note how much they enjoyed the Bucks' Elvis-inspired outfits. I stretch out, stay loose, warm up, and listen to music. My confidence is growing. I feel good. I'm in the best shape I've been in some time. I got a fresh fade. More importantly, I devised a plan months ago to drop a teaser trailer video promoting the return of Mox to professional wrestling at exactly midnight the day my contract expired. My goal was to paint a picture for the audience that would basically be like listening to the Talk is Jericho interview I eventually did that came out around this time, but I wanted to tell the whole story without words in roughly 90 seconds. It was meant to set the stage for whatever was next. I think it ended up costing me $8,000. I spared no expense. I recruited Nick Mondo, deathmatch legend and filmmaker, to help me. He came up with a breaking out of prison theme. We used the red camera. That's the real shit. Like a Lord of the Rings level camera, I learned. We filmed it in February. It was 48 hours of guerrilla filming in LA on my only 48 hours off of the road. We squeezed in one last shot at 4 a.m. on the second day and went to get a shot at the Viper Room. Just a nod to Dusty. It was only 10 minutes away. We had to. After you, leather jacket at the Viper Club. I utilized Twitter for the first time since the Foley thing. Renee's people helped me sort it all out to change the name over from Dean Ambrose to Jon Moxley at exactly 12 a.m. and drop the video at the same time. As it turned out, 9 p.m. West Coast time, I happened to be on stage at the exact moment it happened, presenting the Trainer's Award to Cody Hawk at the Cauliflower Alley Club convention. I took a bunch of photos quick and rushed out of there with Ricker. He was there for Cody's night too, and we shared a drink at the casino bar downstairs away from fans. My phone was blowing up into my pocket as we caught up with each other. I didn't look at it. It just kept buzzing as I finished my drink and decided to order another. I got in a cab, and by the time I got home, it had caught like wildfire. Mission accomplished. The stage was set. An important facet of the teaser was it needed to look so good the fans would speculate it might be a WWE production. I hoped that no matter what theories or speculation was out there, that I was so ingrained in WWE that nobody would really believe it till they saw it. The reaction to the video boosted my confidence. All of my fears and reservations were surface level. When I think about it now, even though I wouldn't admit it to anybody, deep down in my heart, I knew the crowd was going to go nuts that night. Main event's on. I will enter from the top of the arena. The atmosphere is now tense. I can feel it pouring in through the cracks in the door. Security is getting antsy. They want to go up. I've been doing this shield shit long enough to gauge it. We can hold off. I closed the door and continued to get into the proper headspace, doing Hindu push-ups, bouncing around, music at full blast. The hidden track from Deftones Around the Fur is playing somehow. It looks like they're going home. This is it. Time to go. When the nervous Atlas guy opens the door and looks at me again, this time I nod. I throw my hood on, shoulder through the door. We walk. I've been caged. For how long, I really don't even know anymore. Now I'm a weapon being deployed. I've been asleep. My eyes are blinking open and adjusting to the light. I don't know where I am. I may be volatile. Is this animal dangerous? We won't know what happens till I roll out of my sedentary position and stretch my muscles for the first time in 8 years. What kind of sound will I make? As we walk up the stairs of the MGM, I imagine people with tranquilizer darts at the top waiting to put me down if I snap at anyone. I'm twitchy, and I feel unfamiliar energy sparking in my nerves, but it feels natural. I like it. For all intents and purposes, I was literally in jail for 8 years, and now I'm walking into a new world for the first time. That's the best way I can explain it. The cage door is about to open. Live TV, live crowd. Who really knows what the fuck is going to happen? I hear Chris on the mic. I can't really make out what he's saying, but I know it's him. The pro of pros, he tees it up perfectly. I listen for my cue. He will demand a thank you. There will be no music, no pyro, no bells, no whistles. Just this motherfucker. I'm all I got. I think I heard it. Fuck it, I'm going. I walk down several flights of steps unnoticed. Everyone's attention is on the ring. Halfway down, I hear a shriek. A teenage girl getting stabbed in a horror movie scream. The sound builds off of the scream as I continue down the stairs, taking my first shaky steps in what seems like forever, grimacing, sensitive to light and sound. As I hit the floor and make a right turn, I get my feet underneath me and am bolstered by a monstrous roar from the collective crowd. Electricity jolts my heart alive as I jump the rail and slide into the ring, now a fully animated creature. So many colors, smells, and sounds. I see Jericho. I identify him as a threat. He makes too son of a move and gets spiked with the hardest DDT I've ever DDT'd while I'm still taking in my new environment. I pop up, nose in the air, sniffing, exploring, absorbing everything. The referee gets too close and is killed in an instant. Give wild animals their space. I feel the AEW ropes for the first time, leaning up on them, and I take the biggest goddamn breath of fresh air I've ever taken in my life. This has been months of waiting, really longer than that. It's been at least a year since I even realized I was breathing artificial oxygen. The crowd chants Moxley. That's my name. Moxley was not a famous name. I actually wasn't sure if that's what I was going to go back to. I toyed with the idea of coming up with something completely new, but I had thought of the Misfits, who in their original incarnation were not a famous band. Years later, Metallica covered their music and Cliff Burton wore Misfits t-shirts on stage. Their records spread, and long after they broke up, they were more famous than they'd ever been as a functioning band. I saw the original Misfits play in 2019 at the MGM Grand. Josh Barnett happened to be stage side doing security. Life was funny. Anyway, I thought of all the fans I've met over the years who didn't know who the hell I was until I started on TV with The Shield, who told me how they went back and sought out all the old Moxley stuff. I banked on the fact that the Moxley name had some cachet. I'm not ashamed to say that chant was music to my fucking ears. Jon Moxley was a barely functioning, socially dysfunctional, broke drug abuser who disappeared off the face of the earth in May of 2011. It was May 2019, and now a sold-out arena was chanting his name. It was fucking wild. I set my sights on a prone Kenny now. No person on planet Earth has considered this possibility. For a quick moment, there is silence as the audience registers what they are witnessing. Kenny is their guy. To me, he is a fresh kill I would claim for my own. I'm a predator, non-discriminatory. I'm hungry. Kenny is defiant. We break out into a great brawl, walking the route laid out by Cody's cell phone video. The crowd now chants, AEW, AEW. This makes me feel good. My thoughts now go from myself to the bigger picture. I helped. The people are happy. I am relieved. One thing left to do. Just don't kill the top babyface on your first night in. I sail Kenny off the stack of poker chips to the floor below. I won't know for sure till I get to the back, but I sense he is okay. I stand atop the mountain and own the world. For one night at least. I am completely blown up. Coming down off the stage, I am a marauder. I make a full lap around the building, soaking in every single drop of this moment. I look like I want to kill somebody, but I want to be as close to these fans as possible, every single one of them, because I am grateful. I want to give everybody in the building a close-up photo or video. I want to drip sweat on all of them and make it a personal experience. I eventually make my way to the back, where I have arranged a camera to be waiting. I walk into the room and see the red light blinking. I throw my vest down and deliver my first AEW promo. Jon Moxley's first words in 8 years. One take, easy money, the way it's supposed to be. I remembered Hunter talking to us in the early days of The Shield. We're all standing on the ramp at TV. Do you know what a paradigm shift is? He asks us in a patronizing way, like he's talking to third graders. I found the way he said it insulting. I made some kind of small remark. I don't remember what. I was real testy back then. What, you don't think we know what words mean? Yeah, we know what it means. Go on. He looked at me quizzically. There was a pause and a reset. I want you guys to be a paradigm shift here, he continued. We did exactly that. We came in as new guys, middle fingers blazing, unapologetic. We pushed the pace and made everyone else keep up with us. We left backstage at WWE a lot better than we found it. That was 2012. This was 2019. The industry has now changed with the advent of AEW. For the better. For a million reasons. To deny that would be ignorant. Bottom line is that AEW is great for the fans and the wrestlers. Many people, I'm sure, didn't want to believe that this was a real thing that would succeed. But it's working. Things are different now. This is what was on my mind as I walked backstage here at the first ever AEW show. We're at the precipice of a new beginning. If you didn't feel it out there, I don't know what to tell you. It's in the people. Just look, just listen. There's an energy here that's undeniable. It's a new era in an industry gone lame as fuck and saccharine as shit. This is what you call a paradigm shift. Interlude number 2. I go through periods where I swear off tanning. I always feel goofy going to the tanning bed. When the pandemic started and things were closed, I stopped going, eventually entering another one of my tanning is stupid, why do I need to have a tan to be in a fight phases. How's a tan going to help me win a match? I will wonder aloud. Then I'll see myself on the TV monitor one day and ghostly pale, and I'll be like, damn it, how many times am I going to have to learn this lesson? It just looks so much better with a tan. In the summertime, it's easy to maintain a healthy brown because I'm usually shirtless 90% of the day. But in the winter, fans have probably tuned in and wondered when the fucking kid from Powder became a pro wrestler. It's almost April. The weather in Vegas is getting good. Jacksonville's warming up too. A couple months ago, I wrestled a 30-minute match and it was so cold I literally wasn't sweating afterward. At the pay-per-view in August, I was sweating so profusely before the bell even rang that it looked like I was pissing out of my eyebrows, which I prefer over the former. But right now, I think we're going to be in a nice spring weather sweet spot. Since Daly's place is outdoors, I should be able to spend plenty of time at TVs soaking up rays as I go about my business. Damn, now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy how we're still in Jacksonville. What is it, almost a year? At this point, I think we've been at Daly's place longer than we were doing Dynamite in a different city every week. Sometimes I see AEW commercials on TV with highlights from packed arena, and that seems like 100 years ago now. I hope we get back on the road this year and bring AEW back live in person with fans all over the country, and hopefully Europe. We were supposed to go to the UK this past summer before this all started. I miss going there. I miss those fans. I lived for European tours on WWE, which reminds me, at shows over there, they always have sugar cubes at the coffee stand. Why don't we use sugar cubes more often over here? It's easier than sugar packets and zero waste. Cubes are also more fun. Just dump a few of those bitches in there. I like those little tea biscuits and cookies they always have next to the coffee too. Hopefully we'll go sooner than later. I heard when we start traveling again, they want to do the arena in Philly. They call it the 2300 Arena now. It's like its 15th name. That would be dope. I hope we do that. I'd love to wrestle there again. Anyway, the point is, I hope to avoid having to go to a tanning bed till after summer is over. Also, I just decided I'm never going to shave my chest again. Why do I need to shave my chest to be in a fight? Joke Claudio told me. The other day, I was asked if I could perform under pressure. I responded, I'm not sure, but I can try Bohemian Rhapsody. Flick pick, Jurassic Park, 1993. The other day, I stumbled across a YouTube video discussing Jurassic Park fan theories. It was made by a guy who has an entire YouTube channel dedicated to such content. This man narrating the video was passionate. He spoke about events that have occurred in the Jurassic Park universe as if they happened in real life. And he knew his stuff. He spoke with the confidence of an Ivy League professor when he talked about matters such as velociraptors, InGen, herbivores on Isla Sorna, and the Lysian contingency. He clearly spent hours upon hours of his life going over footage, scouring the internet for the secrets of Jurassic Park. He no doubt still spends many nights camped out on Reddit message boards, debating his colleagues with fervor about what we should expect from the new Jurassic World Dominion, which is yet to come out as I write this. In fact, he released a 59-minute YouTube video titled, What We Can Expect from Jurassic World Dominion, dated a year ago. This man is all in. I watched that first video and wondered what kind of adult man spends this much time on such matters. Does he have a job? Kids? A significant other? He can't, right? How could he dedicate so much of his energy toward a fictional world that doesn't exist in real life? Then I watched about 15 more of his videos and wondered how I, a man with a job and a wife, soon to have a kid, had enough time to absorb all the information in these videos. Then I was bummed out when I ran out of new videos to watch, and finally, I remembered that my entire life's work is based on a fictional world that doesn't exist in real life, and I wished I had this guy's phone number so I could call him and just talk Jurassic Park shop. Omaha, Nebraska. I'm pretty sure it was Omaha. Almost 48 hours had passed since I had that strange interaction with Road Dogg in the tunnel. We're at SmackDown. I'm given a message delivered by Michael Hayes. I'm told to go to the production truck to apologize to Kevin Dunn. Kevin Dunn, executive producer, is the guy responsible for all the nauseating camera cuts that might have given your children epileptic seizures while watching WWE programming. I put two and two together and realized I must have sworn on camera at the pay-per-view the night before last. I had no problem apologizing to anybody if that's what happened, but I did find it odd that nobody said anything to me until 2 days later. I would have left the ring at the pay-per-view and gone right to Vince or the truck, the head of the USA Network, or the Surgeon General and taken ownership of the mistake. This is what I signed up for, and I was willing to ply my trade within the parameters of the rules. Don't swear. That's fine. It's not hard. I don't need to swear to cut a promo. However, in the ring, it's possible that sometimes shit just slips out. We communicate in the ring with our partners, our opponents, the referees. This is largely imperceptible to the audience, but with the ring mic'd and all those HD cameras pointed at you, it's not out of the realm of possibility that an errant expletive word could come across on TV. What's more, a performer fully immersed in what they're doing might not have the network's standards and practices memo front and center on their mind while they're occupying the reality of their character. Sometimes you're just in the fucking zone. I actually feel bad. Man, I fucked up. My bad. As I make my way to the production truck to talk to Kevin Dunn for probably the first time ever in my life, I begin to wonder if this isn't all a mistake. I couldn't have actually said fuck. I've been with the company for 2 years and feel I've done an exemplary job of ridding my vocabulary of all profanity while on camera. We'll know in a minute. I'm told I have to watch the tape in the truck. We'll get to the bottom of this. I walk into the production truck and am met by Kevin Dunn, who's overly nice. He then pulls up the footage and sure enough, there it is. Give me my fucking belt, I tell the referee shortly after the pinfall. Kevin plays it twice. Give me my fucking belt, I say. I'm in my own world, in the moment, sweat matting my hair, filled with the adrenaline of the pop of the crowd as the ref counted 1, 2, 3, and I secured my first belt in WWE. A moment I've probably been picturing in one way or another since I was a little kid. I didn't scream it, but it was there, clear as day. I have no excuse. I was 100% repentant. I took full responsibility. I sincerely apologized to Kevin, who had the responsibility of utilizing the 7 or 8 second delay to hit a button and bleep it out. It wasn't my fault. I fucked up. I explained that I was in the moment, excited, and it was just a natural reaction. But I showed full contrition. Kevin went on and on about how he's had to have this talk with other guys, and I was doing so well, and he didn't want something like this to ruin things for me. I agreed. This was not the kind of stupid thing I wanted to fuck things up for me, or my partners for that matter. I gotta be more careful, I thought. Still, this whole thing felt a little overdramatic. Why didn't you just come and cuss me out right after it happened? I would have been cool with that. What's this whole principal's office thing? Just fine me $1,000, or fine me and send someone to come kick me in the shin hard as fuck. That's a good rule. Say fuck on TV, get kicked in the shin. This whole thing just feels a little weird. But I was the one in the wrong here, and I am legitimately remorseful. I actually felt good leaving the truck. It was a good little reminder that one stupid little thing could fuck all this up. So keep your mouth in check. It almost seemed like Kevin was looking out for me. I appreciated his forthrightness and not letting it slide. I thought it was a positive experience. About an hour later, Michael comes up to me in the hallway again. He don't look happy. Well, he says, I don't think that was the right kind of apology for the push we want to give you. I was flabbergasted. I have no clear memory of what I said to Michael then. I was in a little bit of shock. I did apologize. That's what I just did. I thought this was over. I talked it out with Kevin and we shook hands. So, it's not over? The only other thing I remember Michael saying is, look, I know you're a different type of cat, The first time I'd heard that phrase. It wouldn't be the last. I didn't always necessarily take it as complimentary. In fact, many times I felt like I was being made fun of, but I wasn't in on the joke. I remember being by the ring and two top producer types trying to get away with that sort of thing, subtly, but right to my face. I'm not fucking stupid. Are we making fun of me right now? I asked. Their eyes went wide and they changed the subject to laughing about something else seamlessly. Yeah, okay. I can't say for sure whether this incident affected my career in any meaningful way or not. It doesn't matter now, it all worked out for me in the end. It's possible absolutely nothing would have been different. But without a doubt, I could feel immediately a change in the air around me. I was treated differently. I was talked to differently. From that moment on, I think that's how I was viewed by WWE. However, I was described in the truck by Kevin Dunn that day. Of course, this wasn't the first time I felt myself viewed through a similar lens. Elementary school, my desk placed out in the hallway. I have speech problems. They put words on a sheet of paper and I pronounce them correctly. I read sentences and they don't like the way it sounds. I don't remember what the problem was. They just keep making me try over and over. I am not mentally present. I look at the drawings on the walls and escape into my mind. Look at me when I'm talking to you, the teacher says. I am, I say. I stare into her pupils, locked on, and pronounce words. Then I'm looking at my shoes, counting the laces, and I hear, Jonathan, look at me. I am. I'm in 7th grade in the counselor's office. They want to put me on drugs. My mom is talking to people. Some lady who might be some kind of doctor is giving possible diagnoses. I just want to get out of here. I refuse to take these drugs. I hate school. I don't need drugs. Why would I need drugs? All you people are the crazy ones. Why don't you take some pills and just leave me alone, you psychos? God, I hate school. A common experience I have is maybe after a show, everyone is gathered around, maybe the hotel bar or catering, relaxing and having a beer. Someone says to me something like, I always thought you hated me, or, I always thought you were a dick. Then, turns out you're a pretty cool dude. Why would you think I hated you? I will ask. This would have been a person I barely knew and had never had a conversation with. I have no reason to not like this person, and they certainly don't have any reason to believe I'm a dick. We will become friends. What really shined a spotlight on this phenomenon was being with Renee. I have been deemed, fairly or not, unapproachable. She is disarming. That's why she's such a great interviewer. A great conversationalist and a ball of warm light. She has some God-given ability to make people want to pour their souls out to her. I remember when we first started dating, she said to me, I can't believe how comfortable you are with making people uncomfortable. I don't know how you can just sit down at a table full of people and not say anything. What if I don't have anything to say? I ask. If you don't make conversation, it makes people feel uncomfortable, she continued. Why would they feel uncomfortable? I'm comfortable, I say, perplexed. Many people have described me as shy. I don't consider myself shy. I'm just not a chatty Cathy. That doesn't mean I'm necessarily shy. Also, you learn a lot more from listening than you do from talking. I can be antisocial at times, but overall I think I'm a very friendly person. Being with Renee has made me more aware of all this, and I have made some personal improvements in the area of social behavior. Well, maybe I haven't made a lot of improvements, but I'm definitely more aware of it. Looking back on my life now, I've begun to see just how many things were likely affected by the way people perceived me. Even my family, I think, has probably had a hard time closing the distance with me. With the clarity I have now, I can see how at times they might just not have known what to make of me. But maybe at the time I didn't really know what to make of myself. This would have all been useful information to have when I was in the 7th grade, but that's not how life works. The way I see it now, none of it matters. I'm a pretty well-adjusted and successful adult, and I'm not going to change for anybody now. If something about me bothers you, that's your problem. Looking back on this incident years later, I began to wonder if maybe this was another case of my social awkwardness and obliviousness to those around me. Maybe when I went into the truck to give what to me was a sincere apology, I came off like a complete dick. It's not like that sort of thing hasn't happened before. It's been happening to me my whole life. I told this story at an on-stage sit-down interview with JR at a fan event in Baltimore in 2019. I hadn't thought about it in a really long time. It just kind of popped into my head. At this stage of my life, I was willing to accept that maybe I really did just plain come off bad. Thinking about it now, it's possible, but nah, fuck that. I remember my compunction. I remember apologizing. I remember going above and beyond, saying that I was sorry for putting him in a bad spot, promising it would never happen again, and thanking him for the talk. And Kevin was so nice to me. We shared a hearty handshake on the way out. Everything was good. It was all good! If I'd gone in there and been an asshole, why didn't he just say, fuck you then, you're being an asshole? No, he let me go through the whole song and dance while being completely phony, pretending to accept my apology, pretending it was all good and we were friends. Then 5 minutes later, this little cunt rat goes right to the rest of the office and says I didn't give a sufficient apology and whatever other bullshit he probably said about me behind my back, no less. This dickless motherfucker. And it was 48 hours later. Why didn't you just call me on the phone right when it happened and say, fuck you, we're all mad at you, and if you do it again, you're fired? That would have been easy to understand. Instead, I got summoned to the secret castle to meet the magical king wizard who lives in the truck and controls the universe to beg for forgiveness. What are all these stupid little games? The reality in a place like WWE is that one comment, one little seed planted by a guy in Kevin Dunn's position can be extremely detrimental to someone's future there. That's a lot of power, and that power breeds ego. Connecticut, old rich boys club ego. I've heard all kinds of stories about that guy messing with people's careers, but this isn't that kind of book. Suffice to say, that dude is a fuckbag. Maybe this is that kind of book. No. But for real, don't even get me started on... No, this is not that kind of book. Fuck Kevin Dunn. Puerto Rico, 2006. I had a several months stint in Puerto Rico. I turned 21 down there. This dude named Peepo, who seemed to own the whole island, took me and my roommate, a big lovable southern fella named Michael Judas, to every single bar in San Juan. I'd sent a demo tape and got a call from bushwhacker Luke Williams. I want to put together a tag team, mate. It was maybe the last place operating as an old territorial system. 4 shows a week, $450 a week. $450 a week? I was on a plane a few days later. Luke wanted a foreign heel tag team. I partnered with a guy named Haid from England. We were called the British Militia and waved the Union Jack. Since I couldn't pull off a decent English accent, I didn't speak in promos. We elicited mad heat from the passionate audiences. The red-hot energy of the fans in Puerto Rico created the most intense atmosphere I'd ever performed in up to that point, especially in the small towns. We had a match in a gymnasium in Carolina, near where we stayed in Crack Central, against a couple babyfaces named El Chicano and Jumpin' Jeffrey. Luke described it as white heat. Damn, white heat must be hotter than red heat, I thought. A vision of a blacksmith pounding a molten hot piece of wrought iron with a hammer came to mind. 2 conversations I had defined this time period for me, both very different. I was completely naive in all areas of life and wrestling. I'd barely ever been out of Ohio, and here I was on a Caribbean island with a wad of cash, living the dream. One of these conversations had a very positive impact on my future. The other, not so much. Which to start with? Let's start with the bad and end with the good. You on cocaine? I am asked by a wrestler on the card. That's a hell of a non sequitur. He sits down next to me in the locker room after the Sunday afternoon show, the last of the week. Cocaine? He makes a sniffing sound. Oh, no, I'm good, I say. I've never done cocaine. I really don't know anything about it. I communicate to him that I don't have enough money. You get paid tomorrow? He asks. Yes, we get paid on Mondays, I confirm. Only $80? You pay tomorrow? No problem, he says smoothly. Fair point. I did get paid tomorrow. My argument that I didn't have enough money quickly went out the window, and before I knew it, I had bought my first bag of cocaine. I had no idea how much it weighed or if it was a good deal. We never got into the question of whether or not I actually wanted to buy it. What a salesman. Our apartment was on the 2nd floor. Luke lived across the hall. If you went out the kitchen door, you'd be above the office and you could walk across rooftops for a half mile or so. I was sitting on the roof listening to music as the sun went down the next day, considering my little stash. I smelled it, tasted it, rubbed a little on my gums, and they went numb. I guess this stuff is okay. I don't know. I bit the end off of a McDonald's straw, poured a little out of my portable CD player, created a little baby line, and set about figuring out what this stuff was all about. I didn't really drink a lot back then. I was just really into uppers. That night, however, with a giant white rocket up my ass, I would end up drinking like 20 Smirnoff Ices. The next morning, I woke up in the alley below our apartment feeling like a dried cactus and hoping nobody from the office saw me. The next Sunday, I was the one who approached the salesman. Thankfully, before long, we were getting paid late, only paid half or not paid at all. If that territory had been on fire, I might not have survived. Conversation number 2 started much the same way. In the dressing room, after a match, a veteran Puerto Rican wrestler comes in. He's got black hair and a goatee, a mean disposition. His face lights up when he sees me. He approaches and kneels down next to where I'm sitting on a bucket. "Excuse me, sir," he says. His eyes become sweet. "You are a great wrestler. One thing I want to tell you, please." Yeah, please, for sure," I respond. "If one thing, how you say," he struggles to find the perfect descriptor. "You be more vicious," he growls emphatically. "Vicious? Vicious! Vicious!" "Oh, vicious. Yes, vicious." At the time, at 20 years old, I was experimenting with all kinds of shit in the ring. I didn't know exactly who I was as a wrestler yet. I was copying anything I saw that looked cool. I was playing around with all kinds of cute technical wrestling and fancy little spots. I was quickly learning, however, that in Puerto Rico, you could come out and open with the fanciest, smoothest chain wrestling spot there is, and the people would still just sit on their hands. But if you just walked up and punched the good guy in the face, looked at the audience and said, "Fuck you," with a snarl on your face, they would go completely apeshit. Here it was all about the local heroes selling their asses off, and the role of the heel was simply to be ruthless and violent, getting heat, real heat, vicious. Luke was coaching me on this. As the sheep herders, he and his partner Butch had been exactly this kind of team. "Mate, I was hardcore before hardcore was hardcore," he was fond of saying, while describing all the barbed wire face-biting madness of the sheep herders' glory days. Luke was such an entertaining and funny character that sometimes the message would get lost in translation. I had to get my cool spots in. This gentleman in the locker room conveyed the message so simply and effectively that a light bulb went off over my head. He mimicked gouging and tearing at the faces of opponents. I followed suit. Soon we were both mauling invisible baby faces together on the dirt of the dressing room floor. He laughed and smiled. I thanked him for the advice. "God bless you, sir," he humbly told me as he shook my hand before disappearing. The next time out, I was mean as fuck. I made it my goal to get blown up while beating the shit out of the good guys, stomping, clubbing, and biting until I was out of breath. It felt good, and I became a more rabid creature every time out. It felt energizing, liberating. This simple switch in focus from "what cool spot can I open with this week" to "fuck it, let's just fuck somebody up" was a revelation. It was like putting on the most perfectly fitting pair of shoes or the most comfortable shirt you've ever owned. Yeah, this was me. Over the years, as my style has evolved, vicious has remained a key component in the combustion. This was where the seeds were planted to spawn the creature that would stand toe-to-toe with the likes of Brain Damage or Minoru Suzuki. Even as a babyface, which I ended up being somehow, some way for so much of my career, this has served me well. In the post-breakup of the Shield, my ability to change gears and tap into a vicious and hyper-aggressive nature is what brought the crowds to a frenzy as I ruthlessly and repeatedly attacked Seth every week like I was a dog chasing a mailman. In all my research, I have never been able to identify exactly who this man was who went out of his way to help me. Not with certainty. I can picture him clearly in my mind. He wasn't a regular, I don't think. I hardly ever saw him. Definitely never worked with him. But I'll tell you what, that guy knew his shit. And I'll always be grateful for that little chat. God bless you, sir. A WWE story. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, June 2016. The eye of the storm. Chaos swirls around. HD cameras broadcasting live on pay-per-view are pointed right at me. I've been dropped into a rabid pit of tens of thousands of iPhones ready to hit record. Somewhere, some Gandalf-looking motherfucker is looking at the ring, an oversized feather pen in hand, ink dipped and ready to transcribe the forthcoming events onto the parchment and into the wrestling history books. I remain invisible. I've been gifted a moment just for me. I'm at peace, in stillness and tranquility here. I'm underneath the ring of the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The main event of WWE's Money in the Bank pay-per-view is about to be sent to the ring. A match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Roman Reigns defends against Seth Rollins. I've absconded by cover of a dozen emissaries wearing the same oversized WWE crew hooded sweatshirt as I am. We hurriedly rush from backstage, hoods up, crouched. The house lights are down. A video package plays on the screen as we circle the ring, seemingly performing routine maintenance. In less than 10 seconds, I've slid onto the apron to safety. I watch the soles of the men's boots and the inch between the floor and the bottom of the apron as they complete the circle around the ring, retreating, the package delivered, their mission complete. I wish I could thank them. I'm greeted by Nick Daw, who tosses me a bottle of water. An unsung WWE crew soldier, Nick is stationed underneath the ring at every televised WWE event, tightening cables and making necessary repairs on the spot. He organizes the weapons and props stored under the ring, making sure they're in the right positions and easily accessible. Nick is in charge of finding the desired structural integrity of those big, blocky WWE announce desks when there's a big table bump. Sometimes reinforcing them and sometimes sliding out from under the apron and strategically removing a piece or two from the framework, making the announce desk a live round, ready to blow. Tell Nick exactly what stunt you have in mind, and he'll tune her to the sweet spot. In communication with Gorilla via headset, Nick lets them know I'm in position. I've spent a lot of time under the ring with Nick, lying on our stomachs, watching the tiny monitor, like we're kids at a sleepover. Tonight is no different. I remember the first time the Shield was positioned under the ring for attack, and we discovered the little clubhouse Nick had built for himself. We had plenty of time to kill down there, waiting for the lights to go out, our cue to spring into action and triple powerbomb the Rock through the announce desk in the dark. I thought, wow, being underneath the ring is like being in the eye of the storm. No matter what's going on topside, it's eerily calm. The fucking battle of the balls could be going on out in the arena, but under here, all remains placid. In a little over 30 minutes, I'll be the WWE champion. I've never been more calm. I feel totally relaxed, or more accurately, I feel a sense of relief has washed over me as I take a comfortable position on a padded mat and indulge myself with a moment of reflection. I close my eyes and say a prayer, and images flash in my mind that I haven't seen in some time. Memories of feelings I haven't felt in years. I remember starving. I could see my breath while sleeping in my truck in the winter. I remember putting $1.07 in my gas tank to make it to practice, mostly pennies and nickels. I remember the time it took us 22 hours to get to Philadelphia in a blizzard and sewing my own nipple back on outside Toronto. Images of sweltering gyms in the small towns of Puerto Rico come to mind, as well as the faces of the nurses in Germany pulling shards of glass out of my body with tweezers. I feel the sensation of the Florida sun burning my eyes as I arrived in Tampa at the base of this WWE mountain, what looked to be a possibly insurmountable climb above me. I will never kiss anybody's ass. I won't compromise my integrity, but I'll get to the top of this bitch by sheer force of will or die trying. I've been pouring my heart and soul out every night for WWE. On the road for years now. I've never taken a day off, never missed a show. I wrestled 199 matches in 2015. I wrestled 204 in 2016. Through injuries, illness, crippling back pain, walking pneumonia, knees and ankles swollen to cartoon proportions, coughing up so much blood in the shower in Las Cruces that I thought I was dying. Also, I'd be ready to capitalize on an opportunity like this whenever and wherever it presented itself. Tonight, after having pushed the boulder all the way to the top of the hill time and time again, only to have it roll all the way back down, I will finally make good on my promises to those who have stuck by me through thick and thin. Tonight's as much for them as it is for me. I'd begun to worry I would never deliver the big win that they deserved after being punished for believing in me over and over. An albatross has been lifted off my shoulders. I am weightless. Eyes on the small monitor now, Nick and I watch Roman walk the aisle with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship belt in tow. I drove to Vegas from Los Angeles the previous night with Roman. We made it from the loading dock at the Staples Center to my front door in 4 hours flat. Somewhere around San Bernardino, I realized something was wrong. I could read it in Roman's face. He vaguely alluded to something. Some shit was going down with Vince tomorrow, but I didn't have any clue and I didn't pry further. He asked me who was winning the Money in the Bank match. All 6 participants had been at Staples all afternoon for rehearsal, trying to come up with a plan. I told him I didn't know, even though I knew I was going to win. Jericho, close enough to Vince, had asked him straight up. He said he wouldn't bother doing this rehearsal unless he knew the finish. Jericho wasn't supposed to tell me, so I didn't breathe a word. We played Wolf of Wall Street on a screen placed on the dashboard and flew through the desert. We got to my place, had a couple drinks on my back porch, talked movies, and retired to bed. The next day, I walked into the bowl at the brand new T-Mobile Arena. It was WWE's first show here. Jamie Noble, the producer for tonight's ladder match, rushed up to me and told me in a hushed yet aggressive tone, "Tonight's your night. It's about fucking time." "Yep," I responded, unfazed. "About fucking time is all I'm saying," he said with his West Virginia twang as he gave me an emphatic fist bump. "Motherfuckers." Jamie looked around and disappeared. Roman, fresh from Vince's office, finds Seth and me in a locker room. Nobody else is around. He has news. We stand in a triangle. "You up tonight?" he said to Seth. Dean cashes in. Roman went on to explain that he'd be serving a 30-day suspension for a discrepancy with a wellness policy. I don't remember saying anything. A little while later, Michael Hayes corrals the 3 of us into a room to give us the top secret scoop, as he's done many times before. He doesn't tell us anything the 3 of us haven't already discussed. Nobody sells anything. It's clear what needs to be done. It's a beautiful story, albeit not a planned one. Unfortunately, we can't give WWE credit for plotting a 2-year story arc that tied up so beautifully. It happened by accident. Grant's gone, was the text I got from Dev. My blood ran cold. Like the feeling of ice literally pumping through the veins in my arms and wrists. I think Renee was preparing to make dinner. I wanted to say something, but words couldn't form in my larynx. I walked out to the garage and just stood there. After a few minutes, I began pacing small circles, picking up things and putting them back down, searching for a suitable reaction. 20 minutes had passed since I left Renee in mid-conversation. I had opened the garage door and was leaning on the back of my truck when she came out, staring straight ahead and afraid to move. She said something, but I just couldn't fucking talk. I have no idea what words I used to convey what I had learned. I couldn't say it. We started to walk. I just kept staring straight ahead. We ended up walking around the whole block. About halfway into the walk, I was able to talk about it a few quick statements, just the necessary facts. I felt tears welling up behind my eyes like a drill was pushing out through my nose. I sucked it all in. I took a deep breath and bit my lip. I tried to just take it on the chin. I remembered when my friend Casey died back in Cincinnati. He was an MMA fighter and worked at the gym with me. We trained together a lot. We did a late night conditioning session together one night at the gym after we got off work. He walked out the door about a minute before me into the night. It was 11 p.m. 10 hours later, I got a call from a girl who worked the desk. Casey had shot himself. He was gone. Just like that. I carried guilt. At the wake, looking at the Ice Fights middleweight championship belt of the little local fight promotion, set amongst flowers and pictures of Casey with his loved ones, I just couldn't get it out of my head that I could have done something. I hadn't even known him all that long. But what if I'd just been like, "Dude, you want to come over and have a beer? You want to go throw rocks at fucking stop signs?" Anything. How could I have known? Should I have known? What could I have done anyway? This haunted me for years. Grant was so much worse. His wife, Brienne, had gone into a coma, seemingly inexplicably. I've still never heard a good explanation as to why, if there is one. I prayed and prayed and prayed and fucking prayed that she would be okay. She passed away on April 4th. Upon hearing the news of this worst possible outcome while trying to process this horror, my thoughts immediately went to Grant's safety. I can't even fucking imagine the emptiness and the helplessness he must have felt. On top of that, we're right in the heat of a pandemic. That just added a sinister weirdness to the whole thing. Grant was the kind of guy who could ingest an incredible amount of drugs on a good day. This was about as bad as a day can get, and I feared the ways in which he would try to escape or dull the pain. How do you say that to somebody delicately? Or should you just say it bluntly? Hey, I know you're going through unspeakable and unimaginable gut-wrenching hell right now, but just a reminder, don't do any drugs. Limit yourself to a couple drinks, please. Good fucking luck. My core group that was tight with Grant stayed in regular communication with him and each other. We discussed Grant's well-being constantly. I'm sure other groups of friends close with him from different times and places were doing the same thing. That dude was loved. I'm sure we all feared the same thing. Every time I talked to Grant and he seemed to be coping as well as anyone could, I felt a little bit of relief and said a prayer to keep us on track. I just wanted to go grab him, drag him into my house, and lock him in a room where I could keep an eye on him. I was getting word through the grapevine from his wife's family with whom he was close that he was doing well. I started to really have hope he was going to come out on the other side of this thing. I pictured us backstage at an indie show drinking beers one day again. I invited him out to Vegas all the time. I still had hope I'd get him to come do some hiking with me. I envisioned him designing all my t-shirts in perpetuity. When I first left WWE and needed new artwork, I came to Grant immediately. He was a very talented artist and graphic designer. Always self-deprecating, of course. He was all, "Aw, shucks, you don't want to use any of my garbage. I'm no good." He created a Mox design with a grenade that I loved. When AEW asked if I had any ideas for a t-shirt, that was what I gave them. His last matches were in Japan for a GCW Big Japan co-promotion. He had stepped away from the ring, but decided to come back for this trip. Grant loved Japanese deathmatch wrestling. He had all the tapes. He could give you a whole dissertation of the history, narrating hours of footage. Eddie does the same thing with 90s All Japan. I heard about it and told him I was going to check out his matches. He begged me not to. "Please don't. Just remember back to when you thought I was a somewhat serviceable wrestler," he said. Very Grant. Of course, I went and watched him on that tour and thought he looked great, maybe better than ever. Danny Havoc, the performer, was absolutely fearless in the ring. He took some of the stupidest fucking bumps in the history of time, getting suplexed on his head with a ladder around his neck and shit like that. He had a connection with the audience that you can't buy, an unshakable bond built of respect, of his bodily sacrifice. He was so goddamn creative. I vividly remember him showing me the drawings in his notebook, his designs for the Cage of Death, all kinds of crazy contraptions like a giant fly swatter made of chairs that would swing down from the top. One of my favorite memories is sitting with Grant in the back of an SUV in Germany after a match in a big 2-story nightclub. It was a main event for the title, and I made him do a regular match. I mean, mostly regular, like PG-13. He just kept saying, "That's a bad idea. I suck. I can't wrestle. They love you. You're going to do great," I insisted. I don't know why we are in the back of this SUV, but I assume it had something to do with acquiring coke and or ecstasy. I just remember we had a bottle of Jägermeister. The rumor was that Jaeger had a certain opiate in it that really kicked you into fifth gear, but that it had been removed in any bottle sold on the US. In Germany, allegedly, this was the real shit. I don't know if that's true, but we were floating 6 inches off the ground before too long. We sat there in a post-match afterglow, sweating on leather seats and starting to feel really good after a couple shots of this Jaeger. You know, I was not the least bit confident I could put on a respectable performance tonight, but I must say, that was pretty fucking cool. And while I appreciate your confidence in me, don't ever ask me to do that again. It's way too stressful, Grant said. The last time I saw Grant was when we had a WWE show in Philadelphia. I stayed around a couple of days to hang out, see some friends, and show Renee around Philly. We met Grant at a wing spot in South Jersey we used to go to all the time. It was close to his place. We took an Uber there from downtown. Grant had just gotten off work. He ordered a Yingling and a shot, and we began catching up. He was downing shots and beers at a clip. With that, I just got off my shitty job and I want to get numb real quick urgency. We talked about the future. At closing time, he was hammered and attempted to drive home. Fuck no, I told him. We'll all go back in an Uber. It's this new brilliant thing. Almost too good to be true. You don't even have to have your wallet or know where you live. They just come and pick you up anytime, any place, and take you home. It's great. He kept trying to get into his car. I practically had to wrestle him into this Uber and we took him home. He was pissed off that he would have to pick up his car the next day. I'll pick it up, I told him. Things have evolved. There's no excuse to drive drunk these days. We're Ubering your drunk ass, end of story. He was pissed. The next day I awoke to a long Grant text. He wasn't much for long phone calls or constant no-effort emoji texts, but at times he would write long text message or eloquent email essays. Email was his preferred method of communication. I've started to get more into emails in the last year to try to take a page out of this book and keep this tradition alive. He apologized for being so faded in front of my wife. He hoped she didn't think he was some kind of shitbag and thanked me for forcing him into an Uber, as that was the right call. His wife had brought him to pick up his car in the morning and all was well. This was the last chance I'd ever had to look out for him. He died of a broken heart. More than one person has tried to tell me about the coroner's statement or whatever, but I never want to hear that. I don't care. I know what happened. He died of a broken heart. I took it on the chin that first night. That was just my instinct. It is what it is. Just eat it. The second night, I felt a hole being drilled into my nasal cavity again, and a little more came out. A few tears. I gritted my teeth and tried to take the blow. I was walking around like a cloud swelled up from the rain, dry thunder crackling in the distance. It was only a matter of time. It came on the third day. We sat on the couch and the subject of Grant came up, a spark that lit the whole thing ablaze. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears shot out of my face like a broken faucet, surging convulsions in my guts. I stormed outside to our back porch in escape and sat on the steps. Renee followed behind and sat on the steps beside me as I retched. It wouldn't stop. Guttural screams coming from my bowels, sounds I didn't think possible coming from my body. I totally lost control. It was like an exorcism. Snot, tears, and spit spewing as I howled. A 230-pound limp sack of bones slumped over, my head resting on the stoop. I cried for 2 hours. You happy now, motherfucker? Now I look like a pussy in my own book. I'm walking off a plane in Dallas in tears after writing this, people staring at me and shit. I will always miss you, Grant. I love you. Joe Claudio told me. I told my check-in luggage that we won't be traveling much due to the coronavirus. I shouldn't have done it, because now I'm dealing with emotional baggage. Interlude number 3. Vince doesn't own WWE. When Vince sells to Disney, they won't own WWE either. When Vince is gone, it won't matter how the shit show that ensues between all those executives shakes out. They can sit in whatever chair they want, say whatever bullshit they want on investor calls. Doesn't matter how much stock they own. WWE just did some astronomical deal with NBC to put their content on some shit called Peacock. But whatever that's about, library or not, NBC don't own shit and never will. The fans own WWE. If you've ever been to a WrestleMania, for example, you will recall the passion of the fans. Tidal waves of them in their t-shirts, wearing belts over their shoulders, holding up their homemade signs, smiles on their faces. Their joy of being part of this experience. Maybe they've been fans since they were kids, and now they bring their kids to the matches at MSG. Maybe they're a couple from London on their honeymoon who enjoy pay-per-views together. Maybe they're from India or Australia, planning this trip for years. Maybe they're 13 and just started watching recently, bitten by the bug. They could have been first sucked in by Stone Cold, Bruno Sammartino, TLC matches, The Shield. Perhaps Yokozuna captured their imaginations. Maybe they were big Jersey Shore fans and bought that one Mania just to see Snooki and they got hooked. Whatever the case may be, they're all part of it. Part of the magic. This is not something you can buy or sell. This is something that transcends material value that can be calculated on a spreadsheet by some bonehead in Stanford. It's an energy that cannot be contained, a life force that grows and grows far beyond the parameters of control. It got loose a long time ago, impossible to pinpoint exactly when. WWE took on a life of its own, an amalgamation of fans' passion, emotions, and memories that will last a lifetime, passed down through generations. That energy can't be put back in the box. Kind of like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. I'm one of these fans. Despite my obvious creative differences with the chairman and my general disdain for their product, I grew up with it. It's a big part of me. It was pretty cool to really feel like part of the WWE family. Flying on Vince's jet while eating sushi, working out at the office gym in Stanford, talking with Vince for like an hour in the hotel lobby at 2 a.m. I ran into him on his way to the gym. Renee and I had just had sex and I was shirtless going to the ice machine. It was the best conversation we ever had. I remember Stephanie and Hunter sent us a bottle of Jack Daniel's Sinatra Century, super expensive, and flasks engraved with our initials when we got married. I used to have a theory that Vince's plan was to scuttle the ship, intentionally crashing and burning WWE like the Hindenburg before he died so that nobody, not Hunter, Steph, or Shane, could ever take it over. I pictured him cackling maniacally while hundreds of drums of gasoline exploded atop Titan Towers, having the last laugh. Dude, remember that one promo where Vince brought back the NWO and he's all like, I'm gonna kill it! I'm gonna kill my creation! See what I'm saying? It makes perfect sense. What other explanation is there for this horseshit we're putting on TV, I wondered. I finally decided he just lost the plot and was so insulated in his own world, so disconnected from reality, he would never recover creatively. He's lost his magic, I decided. That Walt Disney magic that only Vince has. And when he dies, it'll be gone forever. Hunter was smart enough to hire half the indies and take Instagram selfies with them, but he ain't got the magic. Shane would probably stick an M80 up his ass and light it if he thought that's what fans wanted to see, but he ain't got it either. Fortunately, though, when Vince is gone, that magic will live on in the hearts and minds of the fans forever. Even if Vince did run the whole thing into the ground somehow, it still wouldn't take away my memories of watching Bret vs. Austin at Mania, my heart racing, nearly having an embolism when it briefly looked like Austin was going to break the sharpshooter. Nobody's ever broken it, JR screamed. It wouldn't take away my memories of watching Superstars on Saturday mornings. It wouldn't take away my memories of the adrenaline I felt when Raw's War first came out with that new badass intro with the thorn in your eye and all the exploding shit. Damn, WWE used to be cool. A moment like Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30 with that stadium full of fans chanting, yes! You can't fucking tell me anybody else that. AEW is no different. When fans descend on an arena and sing Judas or go nuts when Orange Cassidy comes out, it's a moment when we've all been brought together in one place by our love of wrestling, something that's taken on a life of its own. It wasn't an investment from Tony Khan that created this promotion. It was the passion of the fans. It was already an idea, but they made it a reality. We know that. And as this thing grows and continues to succeed, I hope we never forget it. Jon Moxley's Guide to Marriage. Blonde. Canadian. There was a new broadcaster coming into WWE, I read. A chick from the Score in Toronto. There's a picture of her. Great smile, I thought. Raleigh, North Carolina, 2013. SmackDown. It's that hectic time right before a Shield entrance. Buckles snapping, zippers zipping, boots tightening. The burn of fresh Tiger Balm stings the inside of my nose and drips down the back of my throat. I smell of cocoa butter. I was really into cocoa butter back then. My biceps are the only exposed part of my body in this gear. Might as well make them shine. There's good energy. Last night on a 5-day loop, I have a singles match with Brian and we're up next. I'm doing some burpee push-up combos when I hear, "We gotta go!" I pop up off my belly and run down the hallway to catch up with the caravan of security. "Let's do it, baby," I say. The hallway is crowded and tight. I'm slowed down by traffic going both directions. I dart in and out of lanes, hopping and jogging past road cases and seamstress tables. Excuse me, coming through. Rounding a corner now, open space and reach where I can kick it into higher gear. I'm bobbing and weaving through, bouncing on my toes, when her face comes screaming into view. That smile. It's that new chick. She has a cup of tea in one hand. I see the little string hanging out. She's a tea drinker. She has a stack of papers under her other arm, scripts and formats. That's right, she's a broadcaster. "Hey," she says. "Apparently everyone on Twitter thinks we're dating." It's moments like this that separate the men from the boys. I'm Wayne Gretzky on a breakaway, Rafiki backfisting that hyena in The Lion King. It's that scene from X-Men with the kid who runs so fast he sees everything in slow motion while Jim Croce's Time in a Bottle plays. I slow my progress and turn my head and torso to the left. My arms swing back, not unlike the Sasquatch in the Patterson Gimlin footage. We are squared up with each other for just a second as I spin. I am now jogging backward down the hallway in the same direction. In less than a second, I will complete my rotation and disappear into the distance, but not before speaking the first words I ever will to my future wife. "Well, hey, it looks good on you." Bullseye. I don't care what Renee says. At this exact moment, it was all over. Her goose was cooked. It would take a while to reel her in, but she was firmly hooked. If she had any doubt, if she thought for a moment the pang she felt in her gut was just indigestion, the nail would really get hammered home when we passed each other again about 30 minutes later. I made a quick glance in her direction as I passed, flanked by security moving through a loading dock area, tactical vest undone, my sweaty bang flopped over one side of my face, a fresh black eye on the other, blood dripping down my cheek. Just enough, a little drip, a perfect black eye. A gift from Brian I don't think I ever thanked him for. Chicks dig stuff like that. At this point in time, I was not looking for a relationship, much less a wife. I had long ago come to the conclusion that girlfriends were a waste of time and energy. But what good could come of that? There's like a million girls out there. An official relationship just means somebody new to fight with. You ever get in a fight with somebody you were dating casually? I didn't need anything in my life that could spark jealousy or negativity. I wasn't against the idea of monogamy, but it would have to be a situation where, like, I don't know, the perfect girl came along. I didn't expect that to happen. What rule out there says you have to have a significant other, a wife or husband? I've seen so many people waste so much time in relationships that were doomed from the beginning. I think people get in a rush sometimes. They just want to have somebody, so they force it and start trying to push square pegs into round holes. I still think my system is soundly designed. The proof is in the pudding, babe. It works for me. It's really simple. Don't search. Just chill, relax, just wait, live your life. When the right one comes along, you'll know it. I was pretty certain I was destined to be a solo act and roam the earth alone forever, and I was good with that. Then I met Renee. About 47 seconds later, it was just like, oh, okay, so we're going to be together forever then? Okay, cool. It was that easy. The first time we saw each other outside of work was in Vegas after a SmackDown. I had mentioned we should hang out after the show. I was careful not to ask her on an official date. Too risky. That would indicate I was chasing her. Girls don't like that. I just told her where I would be, the Crown and Anchor pub. The bait was set. Let's wait and see what she does. I rode over with Seth and met my buddies Bonham and Farmer. A few other people were there too. Some steps led to a loft area overlooking the whole pub. We were shooting pool up there when she walked in, wearing a Dinosaur Jr. t-shirt. She showed up all right. I watched her from the loft as she scanned the room. She wasn't just pretty, she was cool. She was classy, but she didn't look out of place in such a disreputable establishment, my natural habitat. I found out later she actually did think that she was going on an official one-on-one date that night, only to walk in and find a tray full of shots of Jack on a pool table under a cloud of smoke surrounded by me and my scummy friends. The next move was clear. The first time we really hung out, just the two of us, a real date, was in Orlando a short time later. I lived in Vegas, she lived in New York. This would be a summit on neutral ground. We had a pay-per-view coming up in Miami, and I knew she was going to be in Orlando for NXT, so I told her I was going straight to Florida to hang out for a couple days. I pretended like I was going to be there anyway. I got a room at the Embassy Suites. We talked a lot on this walkie-talkie app called Voxer, and through these communications, I had mined a lot of useful information, such as her favorite drinks, snacks, and candies. I stocked the room with Skinny Girl vodka, red wine, and chips. I bought a big variety bag of fun-size Halloween candy. Game time looming close, I put on my battle attire, worn jeans and a fresh Hanes white t-shirt, straight out of the package. Hours later, we sat on the couch still talking and laughing. I realized it was 4 a.m. I'd been having such a good time, I almost forgot to have sex with her. Nobody's leaving here in the friend zone. Not on my watch. Time to hit the pay window. We've basically been married ever since. We actually got married for real on April 9th, 2017, because I was in a bad mood. We had gotten our marriage license a few months back. I had a house show in Reno and Renee came with me. Walking around downtown in the morning, we passed the courthouse and decided, shit, we're in Nevada, we're already here. Let's just get our marriage license so we have it loaded in the chamber whenever we decide to pull the trigger. One less thing. We were already planning to do a shotgun wedding of sorts in Vegas. A traditional wedding would be all of my nightmares rolled into one. Why don't I just stick my hand on this hot waffle iron and close the lid while I'm at it? Of course, if that's what she wanted, I would have given it to her. Renee had no idea I had already acquired a pretty sick ring. I had used her friends to create a back channel for design intel, giving me insight into what kind of wedding ring she would want, without having to ask her directly and tip her off. It's rose gold, a hint bohemian. It's not all in your face, it doesn't try hard, it's just fucking cool. Very Renee. I was in no rush. I figured when the day came, I would know it. There would be a sign. It would be a perfect sunset or a morning of sex and Bloody Marys. One day will be the perfect day to get married, and I'll know it when I see it. That fucking marriage license started burning a hole in her pocket real quick. I started getting shit like, yeah, if you ever actually do it. God damn it, I'm waiting for the magical fucking sign. Would you hold your horses? Sorry for wanting to provide you with a perfect Disney princess moment. Christ. We started the day in Zion National Park in Utah, about 5 hours north. We'd been planning this little trip for a while. There were no house shows, and I actually had a few days in a row off after Mania. I had hiked what's called Angel's Landing that morning, getting up before dawn. It's a little gnarly. There's sheer cliffs, warning signs mounted that many people have fallen to their deaths. There are chains mounted into the rock face to grab onto as you traverse the path. I was pretty pumped afterward. That had been on my to-do list for a while. We sit down at a patio table at a little restaurant in town. I see Carano's name pop up on my phone. Motherfuck! This can't be good. I was getting drafted to Raw, and I had to fly to New York tomorrow morning. We had to drive home right now. We sat on the couch that night and everyone was in a bad mood. Even the dog was side-eyeing me. I was angry and a little buzzed. I like SmackDown. I didn't want to move. Plus, I was pissed that my trip got cut short. Renee went to bed. Bad vibes everywhere. She had been dropping more little "if we ever get married" hints out there. I started thinking about that. It was like when you're mad about something else entirely, then notice an expired product in your fridge. Then you check another and that shit's expired too. Before long, you're cleaning the whole thing out in a rage, hurling pickle jars and old Tupperware every which way. I should just do this shit right now. Yeah, I'm doing this shit right the fuck now. I went to the garage and retrieved the ring. For a moment, I felt the weight of the moment as I actually held it in my hand. This idea had popped into my head less than a minute ago. Am I sure? Nah, fuck all that. I'm doing this. I walked up the stairs. Surprisingly, I felt like I was on a roller coaster, chugging to the top of a hill. I got hit with nervous adrenaline I didn't expect. Renee was in bed with the dog. The TV was on. It's a bit of a blur. I just busted out the ring and said something in the vein of, well, do you want to do this or what? Something close to that. She was in shock, but quickly her smile, that smile, spread across her face as big as I've ever seen it. Laughing, smiling, joy, excitement. Bullseye. I look up the number for the little church at the west. It closes at 11 p.m. What the fuck? Aren't Vegas chapels supposed to be open all night? Isn't that the whole point? We take to Yelp and find what turns out to be Pistol Pastor Pete's home number. An old lady answers. I explain our situation. She asks if we've been drinking. Well, yeah, but it's okay, I promise. Oh my, you'll have to talk to the pastor, the lady tells me. Pastor Pete says, if you can drum up a witness, I can be there in 30 minutes. $250, cash only. Done. My good friend Sean Marshall answers his phone in the middle of the night. He's in bed. Renee asks him to be the witness. I'm on my way, he responds without hesitation. Sean and Pete arrive at the exact same time. We sign a few papers and open up a doggy ice cream for Blue. He shoves his face in it and we don't hear from him for another 20 minutes. By then it's over and we're officially betrothed. It goes down in the backyard under our big tree that's all lit up. Renee doesn't stop smiling, that smile. I use the hair tie in place of a ring for purposes of the ceremony. I don't wear an actual wedding ring because if I had one, I would lose it. I just got mine tattooed on a couple days later. I couldn't lose that thing if I tried. We make the marriage official in the closet for some reason. It's a pretty big closet. I've never been so purely happy for one night as that night. Even a few hours later when I had to leave, I was moving through the airport weightless, like I was on roller skates. Sometimes if I'm on the road for a while, in Japan or stuck on a plane, I pull up the pictures of that night and relive it all over again in my mind. The love of my life. And I got that shit in writing. Now that there's not a dry eye in the house and all the ladies in the audience are collecting themselves after being swept away in this tale of romance, get ready to listen up and take notes because it's time to get practical. What have I learned after 4 years of husbandry? So this is writer's block. I had to have learned something. I guess I don't really know anything, and that's the first lesson. You don't know shit, so do a lot of listening. Remember, at all times, happy wife, happy life. Your main objective at all times is to keep your significant other happy. If you do that, everything else will fall into place. So stay focused on doing your job. Even if you're certain that you are right, you're wrong. Learn to live with being wrong. Sometimes it's good to be wrong. For example, if I had been left in charge of something like housewares, our cupboards would be full of paper plates and plastic sporks. I didn't think we needed a new fireplace. I still don't think we did. Was I right? Doesn't matter. She wanted a new fireplace, and the longer I pushed back against this idea, the more it festered in her brain. Brain festering is to be avoided at all costs. Now, to my wife, the old fireplace began to look uglier and uglier as time went on. Then the furniture is ghetto. Then the whole house is a mess. Then there's dog hair everywhere. And now she's living in a double wide, and Blue Benny and I are dirty hooligans who have been banished to the yard. The new fireplace brought balance to the universe. Happy wife, happy life. Do not engage in discussions about what color to paint the walls in any room of your house. This is not a hill to die on. Blue? Great. Eggshell or tan? Love them both. You have lost control of the colors of your walls. Just accept it. When you're getting ready to go out, your wife may say she will be ready in 20 minutes. This is false. Plan accordingly. This is actually 45 minutes to an hour you have in which to run errands, get a workout in, or anything else that needs to get done. Do not check on her progress. They don't like to feel rushed. You will also notice up to 3 outfit changes. This is just their process. When asked your opinion on what she is wearing, do not engage in any discourse. Answer reflexively. Looks great. Love it. Otherwise, you'll never get to dinner and you will be starving. Do not get piss on the floor. In fact, every once in a while, give the bathroom tiles a once-over with some Lysol just to be safe. If you get up in the middle of the night to pee, turn the light on. That little toilet bowl light from Shark Tank is a useful tool as well. And if you're drunk, for the love of God, steady yourself on the wall. If you wake up before your partner, bring them coffee or tea in bed. Flowers. Flowers. Flowers can't fix everything. I mean, when dumbass Gavin Rossdale went and banged the maid, a whole truckload of fucking orchids couldn't have kept Gwen Stefani from kicking his ass to the curb. But flowers are very effective in almost any situation. So, flowers, flowers, flowers. Proactive flowers. Maybe you didn't do anything wrong and you see someone on the side of the road selling flowers on your way home. Better to have flowers than not. And who knows, maybe you did do something wrong. And if you didn't, it's always good to score points. Run up the score. Tech fall that fucking marriage. Cards are good too, which reminds me. Unfortunately, Valentine's Day is a real thing. And yes, they take it seriously. Be prepared. Have a battle plan. It's hard to remember all these holidays. I don't know what day it is half the time. I've actually forgotten my own birthday before. One time I called my mother to remind me of her exact birth date as I was booking her flight. I pretended I didn't remember the year of her birth, but I did. What I was confused about was the day. It's February 6th, but for years I would always get it confused with February 4th and 9th. I think because if you write a 6 and flip it over, that looks like a 9, and a 4 could look the same. When I called my mom to ask her this question, it was February 6th, her birthday. I had no fucking clue what day it was. So you can see how I may have gotten myself in hot water regarding special days. You must go above and beyond on your significant other's birthday. Make a plan, have a surprise. Gotta crush the birthday. Finally, and most importantly, get it on. All the time. You can't have too much sex. In fact, if it feels like you've had too much sex, that's a good thing. Here's a pro tip, especially for those who spend time on the road. Don't watch porn. I know. Hear me out. Instead, use your imagination. Fantasize about your significant other in all kinds of scenarios, doing shit you could never get them to do in real life. Then, when you get home, it's both your beautiful love who answers the door and the sultry chick from your dreams, or whoever it so happens you concocted in your imagination. The basic rule of thumb is, if you've run out of work to do at your job, grab a broom. There's always cleaning to be done. If you don't know what you should be doing right at this moment, have sex. Here's one I can't take credit for. I learned this from my dad decades ago. Do not ever, under any circumstances, call a woman a bitch. Furthermore, even if she is acting like a total loon, do not call her crazy. Deep cuts. Dope matches you may not have seen. Josh Barnett versus Hideki Suzuki. Inoki Genome Federation, Fight for Japan, 12/31/2011. This match is on a card full of MMA fights and kickboxing matches, and is so realistic it doesn't look out of place at all. This is Josh Barnett Pro Wrestling. Tajiri versus Psychosis, ECW Hardcore TV, 8/27/2000. Maybe the last great classic from the arena in the dying days of ECW. It's on point. Sami Callihan versus Danny Havoc, CZW Cage of Death, 12/12/2009. Just fucking balls out, bonkers powerhouse of a match. In the Cage of Death! These guys kill each other. I watched this from the balcony. Sammy has a gruesome scar on the back of his neck from this. Yuko Miyamoto versus Masashi Takeda, Big Japan Pro Wrestling, Scaffold Construction Site Deathmatch, 7/12/2009. One of my all-time favorites. These are the kinds of guys that can do a beautiful, perfect bridging German suplex high on their toes and their nose, but they choose to do it on a bundle of light tubes because they don't give a fuck what you think. Nick Bockwinkel versus Dory Funk Jr., WCW Slamboree, A Legends Reunion, 5/23/93. An old-school battle of legends that garners a standing ovation. Cody Rhodes and I watched this before a house show, and it led to a competition in the locker room to see who could work the longest backslide every night. Claudio and I always won. Norman Smiley versus Minoru Suzuki, UWF, 7/20/1990. Norman is so underrated. This is an intensely competitive shoot-style match full of great shit. Trent Acid versus Homicide, Ring of Honor, Wrestle Rave, 6/28/03. Peak Trent Acid, rest in peace. Homicide is a national treasure. Samoa Joe versus Necro Butcher, IWA Mid-South, The Arena, 6/11/05. This is a classic. Brutal, completely brutal. I made Renee watch this once on a plane. May 14th, 2021, Chicago O'Hare, Admiral's Lounge, 2:39 p.m. I don't like to check bags. I like to stay fluid. They made me check my roller bag that I attached to my little gym bag, so now I gotta haul that around by the handles like a hitman. It makes my neck hurt worse. I had to check it because the storage was all full by the time I got to my gate. I was mourning drinking with Grizzly Cal, the Chili's in Jacksonville until the last minute. And choices. Yesterday was a long day. I wrestled 2 tag matches with Eddie, did a run-in at the end of Dynamite and like a million promos and pre-tapes. Everything we did was fun and turned out great, but these Thursday AEW tapings, a necessary evil of the pandemic, have been long, laborious. I've gone full Lieutenant Murtaugh. Folks out here wrestling at 2 a.m., I can't wait to start touring again and just doing it all live. Night before last, Wednesday, live Dynamite was the shit. I've been working on facilitating a match with New Japan legend Yuji Nagata for well over a year. Made difficult since I can't get into Japan right now. But as it turns out, I am the fucking forbidden door. We were set to do it at NJPW Strong taping in an empty arena with no fans, but Tony said, why don't you do it on Dynamite? We're making shit happen, baby. Renee is over 35 weeks pregnant. I told the baby to just stay in till I get through this match. She did not respond, but I'm sure she knew I meant business. Nagata is 53 years old and still fucking awesome. He's also a class act and a super sweet man. I met with Nagata and Rocky, my boy and NJPW representative, at 4:30 p.m. It took us all 15 minutes to discuss. I felt extra stress. I wanted Nagata to look great. This was my match that I called for, and Tony was gracious enough to put it on TNT, where Nagata last appeared on Nitro in 1997. This legend has come all this way to be here. Matches in New Japan bring their own particular stress. There's often a language barrier, but wrestling is a universal language. And in Japan, there are no time limits or commercial breaks, so all you need is confidence in your skills. I know I can wrestle, sell, and perform my way out of any situation. Live national television in the US brings another type of stress, one that I'm well accustomed to, and it doesn't even faze me by this point. Countless times as I'm about to go through the curtain, I've got word that 2 segs, 4 and 8 minutes, have now become 3 segs of 3, 3, and 6. Or I think we've got 2 minutes left and the ref tells me we're going to commercial in 15 seconds. All different scenarios of that nature. You got to be able to improvise and think on your feet. I told Tony I don't want to fuck with no commercial breaks. With our respective styles, I knew this would simply be a fight. Hard strikes and submissions from the opening bell. A firefight until someone abruptly hit the pavement. I saw the match as 1 seg, foot to the gas pedal. We also need to see Nagata coming out of his locker room. It needs to feel like a pride fight. I wanted the audience to immediately know they were seeing something different from the usual fare. Big fight feel. My boy TK set it up exactly as I asked and opened the show with us. Still, what if some shit goes down with the times once we're live? You never know. It will all fall on my shoulders. I do not want to have to tell Yuji fucking Nagata, sorry dude, we gotta go home. This was all the pressure of a big match in New Japan and all the stress of live TV all wrapped into one. For the first time in years, I found myself a little nervous. It didn't help that Eddie was more hyped than anyone in the building and kept trying to pump me up. Let's fucking do this, Mox! Show these motherfuckers what's up! Dude, it's 5 p.m. I'm trying to stay all zen. I don't want to split my differential here. At 7 p.m., I get dressed and we film a quick hit warming up in the hallway. I jog around Daly's place a little, past Eddie smoking a Newport and use the code word Dragon's Breath. We converge in my trailer with music loud. Eddie plays World War III by the Rough Riders. I'm getting warmed up, loosening my hips and moving around. One shot of old number 7 soccer kicks me right in the face, mixing with the tiger balm in my sinuses and detonates a powerful explosion. It smells and tastes like victory. There are butterflies in my stomach as we wait in the hall. Nagata is walking. 30 seconds, I hear from production. It's so much fun having Eddie here with me for this. I think he's more excited than I am. Must be nice. The motherfucker doesn't have anything to remember or be prepared for in case of emergency. 5, 4, 3, 2... I kick the fucking shit out of a glass door and it bursts open. I hear the crowd roar. The energy supercharges my body and I begin barking a litany of expletives before charging down the steps. Let's fucking go. In the ring, squared off with my opponent, I hear a flute. I think I'm hearing Season of the Witch by Donovan. I get briefly enraged as I wonder if they're playing house music and we've gone to commercial break, but the song quickly fades and the shit is on. After the match, holding the IWGP US belt high, I realize I'm hearing Wild Thing by the Trogs. I assume that's my music now. That's pretty cool. I feel touched that Tony knows me well enough to know I would think it was cool. He was confident that he could surprise me with it and I wouldn't flip out. Nagata and I kicked an elbow that pissed out of each other in a glorious sprint that left my face busted open, right under the eye. A blessing. Just a little drip. Renee, I'm sure, got turned on watching at home, but that's not the sort of thing she would admit. I bowed to Nagata in sportsmanship and reverence. He bowed in return. My mother would text me later to tell me she cried, and I don't think she even knew who Nagata was. Trent cried too. This is everything great about professional wrestling. Wild Thing plays and the crowd, still limited for safety, is going nuts. It feels like a full house. They are happy. I am happy. Blue Justice himself is happy. Eddie's probably crying worse than my mom because he gets emotional. little bitch. Feels like every person in Jacksonville is smiling. For just a moment, everything was fucking good in the world. 2020 is in the rearview mirror. I'm as proud of that 10 minutes of television as anything I've ever done. Money in the Bank, 2014. TD Garden, Boston. Seth Rollins, who recently turned to the dark side, turning his back on his Shield brothers and breaking the hearts of fans worldwide, is a red-hot heel, aligned with Triple H's authority. He's only a few steps away from climbing the ladder and retrieving the Money in the Bank briefcase and a guaranteed shot at the championship anytime, any place. A virtual golden ticket to the top of the industry. I watched from Gorilla. I've been removed from the match by medical personnel, an innocuous moment meant to look like a legit shoulder injury. The crowd booed like a motherfucker as I furiously walked to the back, escorted by officials. A good sign, but that was the easy part. Now would come the test. The next few moments would decide my fate. I knew that. Somehow I've become this good guy. Dean Ambrose, the unlikeliest of heroes, emerges from the curtain and races down the aisle to stop the villain from getting his hands on the prize. The crowd goes nuts. Thwack! I nail him in the back with a chair and he falls off a ladder to the canvas. I proceed to beat the fuck out of him with a steel chair, which always sucks no matter how you slice it. Exactly like he'd done to me on the night he went all evil. The crowd roars with approval. They feel a certain catharsis. I look up to the sky. The Money in the Bank briefcase dangles above, tantalizing. The noise grows. I begin to climb the ladder, fighting through pain with every step. The volume around me is deafening as I near the top. As I touch the briefcase with my fingertips, I can't hear myself think. Then, boom! The pyro goes off, the first notes of the classic music signaling the arrival of Kane, an agent of destruction retained by the authority. The briefcase is swinging in circles now. I frantically try to get my hands on it, but I can feel Kane's presence closing the distance. The fix is in. The crowd in Boston is pissed. Kane grabs my leg to yank me off the ladder, but I kick myself free, refusing to be denied. I dig deep, fighting off the movie monster with everything I have left. I make one last desperate scramble up. That's not over yet. I hear the high-pitched screams of girls in the crowd pleading with me to climb. It's pandemonium. The monster finally overtakes me as he inevitably would, delivering a chokeslam and a tombstone that puts me away, clearing the path for Seth to ascend the ladder and claim the prize. The whole piece of business was incredibly exciting, and the heat is monstrous. The fans really wanted me to grab that damn briefcase, and that's the important thing. That's what I needed. With the fans screaming obscenities of the bad guys and the teenage girls fighting back, tears might not have realized at the time was that while I didn't grab the briefcase, I gained something so much more. I'm becoming fully entrenched as a scorned babyface with the fans firmly behind me as the story continues. I love storytelling. This night couldn't have worked out any better for Seth or me. The one thing I now knew without a doubt, when the time was right, I would get my revenge on the bad guys. Acting as a proxy for those fans, we would get our revenge together, our big victory. The Death Star would blow up. One night soon would be our night. Only problem is, that night never really came. Cincinnati, Piccadilly, 1996. Donnie and Kevin got some of those foam belts once. Their grandma took them to a WWF show at the Cincinnati Gardens when we were kids. I couldn't go because I didn't have any money. I was really bummed. I'd been listening to the ads on WEBN for weeks. It was Brett and Taker and some kind of tag on top. Kev brought back a tag belt, and since he only had one, we paired it with a homemade companion. Donnie had the world belt. I really liked that thing. It was black and gold. T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, June 2016. Earlier tonight, I competed in another Money in the Bank ladder match. The last time, that night in Boston in 2014, I was prepared to jump out of the ceiling with my hair on fire into a pit of venomous scorpions if need be. Tonight, my only goal is to not get hurt. Of all times, tonight was not the night for a catastrophic injury. As it was, I was basically limping into this pay-per-view, beat to shit and half brain dead. But I could have had a knife sticking out of my stomach and I still would have found a way to kayfabe it. Tonight, nothing was going to stop me from grabbing that goddamn briefcase. When it was over, I didn't even celebrate. This was just a means to an end. That wave of relief first hit me atop of the ladder. We're almost there. I took my time. Those things seemed to get higher and higher every year. The crowd was louder than I expected, slowly erupting as I finally unhooked the case. Many people couldn't have given a fuck less about me during the match. They were even booing me. They'd long given up hope. Joy, even shock and surprise overtook the arena when I secured the prize. I'd called my shot on TV. A bold claim I might cash in on the same night when I won, but I'm sure few believed it. They'd been conditioned not to. Hell, even I didn't believe it. But with the case and the contract in hand, it was now a real possibility. Maybe he will, a fan wonders briefly. Nah, they sensibly decide. Burned too many times. Nick and I watched the little monitor without stress. It was nice to chill and watch my two friends, two great athletes, showcase their talents in the main event. Seth has just returned from a gruesome torn ACL. He's worked hard to return to get back to 100%, and he looks great out there. Seth had cashed in his briefcase at WrestleMania to become champion in a grand heist the previous year, before getting injured and having to relinquish the belt. Tonight, he has the chance to take back what he never lost. While Seth was champion, I made many attempts to wrest the belt from him, only to be derailed by the authorities' nefarious means time and again. Now there's no authority. Seth wants to prove he's the best by coming back from surgery and rehab, climbing the mountain and reclaiming his spot at the summit. As the match wears on and nears the final stretch, I watch with one eye. I log roll away from Nick to my own area and begin moving around as much as I can in my subterranean predicament, stretching, doing some push-ups, just getting blood flow, focusing. There is but one thing left to do. 1, 2, 3. The match concludes. Seth has pinned Roman clean in the middle. Maybe something of a shock to the audience, as a lack of authority interference hasn't historically been Seth's MO. Nonetheless, the audience is pleasantly surprised. Well, shit. Good for you, man. Congratulations. Well deserved, the crowd thinks as they applaud. Seth celebrates his enormous achievement. You can say whatever you want about how he acquired the Money in the Bank briefcase in the first place, or how he used it to hijack Roman's WrestleMania moment. Say whatever you want about the way Seth conducted his business in the past. It doesn't matter, because tonight he did it fair and fucking square, on his own talents, on his own merits that were always there. Not only that, tonight he overcame having his title stolen from him. He overcame an injury that often ends careers. He came all the way back, reclaimed the top spot, and showed us all how great he is. And he did everything the right way. Now finally, we can celebrate Seth Rollins. I'm reminded of that scene at the end of The Departed. Matt Damon returns to his apartment after all his lying and killing, but nobody is the wiser. He got off scot-free, a hero cop. He opens the door and sees Mark Wahlberg standing there with a gun, and he's dead before he can say anything. The loose end he forgot to tie up. I hear Seth's music play, interrupted by mine. I've entered a mental space by this point where Nick no longer exists, though I hear him, as I always do, as I slide under the curtain. Watch your head! Thanks, Nick. One thing left to do. Put a slug in the back of this guy's skull. My music hits, the familiar that sound hasn't exuded real menace for some time, but right now, the crowd goes nuclear. Seth turns to the ramp, the poor sap. The oldest WWE trick in the book. The old music distraction. Nobody notices me rolling out from underneath the apron, but I appear an apparition in the ring. I hear screams. I blast Seth in the skull with a steel briefcase unapologetically. He won't recover. Anger, resentment, frustration, pain, agony begin to boil over as I move next to ringside. I look at senior referee Mike Chioda. The crowd is fucking bonkers, but I can't acknowledge them. There's no time. This is an assassination. A hit. Kiki, I tell him, I'm cashing this in right now. The guttural roar in the arena as I hand Kyoto the briefcase confirms, even to me, that this is real. I slide into the ring. Seth is searching with his hands, his vision blurred. His nightmares have come true. His past sins have come back to haunt him. I observe him without sympathy. I snatch him by the hair and pull him into a front face lock as the bell rings. I secure double underhooks and DDT him into oblivion. Vegas 2016. It's over. They know it. They know it's going to be a 3 count, but they can't believe it. A certain magic lives between the moment you know it's over and the ref's hand slapping the mat for that final time. When you're not looking for a 2.95, a 1-2, no! When you're not asking a question, could this be it? When you're making a statement, this is it. It's not like Tom Brady up by 6 touchdowns in the 4th quarter already posing for photographs, waiting for the last 11 minutes on the clock to run out, the game decided. It's an ultra-concentrated version of that. The audience has only seconds to fully grasp what's happening, process it, and decide how to respond. It's the subtleties leading up to that moment where the bad guy gets defeated that prepare them to believe this is it, it's over, we're ready to fucking blow. But nothing's really real until the ref hits 3. When you nail it, that few seconds in between are pure distilled 100 proof joy and excitement. An entire arena orgasming at the exact same time. The best goddamn drug dealer in Amsterdam couldn't sell you that shit. If he could, I would have found him. 1, 2, yep, fuck you. 3, the arena explodes. Nobody is sitting down. Hands are in the air all the way to the ceiling. Smiles. There's joy, catharsis, elation. This feeling is why they buy tickets. It's why they invest in performers. It's fucking loud in the center of the ring. I feel like 747s are flying over my head. I finally release my grip on the fictional narrative and my character's played after a few seconds. I try to hang on, but my hold immediately gives way to an outburst of emotion, a ball of rage inside me. I want to burst out something along the lines of, fuck all you fucking motherfuckers, but I instinctively hide it under my breath to an acceptable PG degree, as I've learned to do. Still, I let loose, finally celebrating. I hold up the belt, standing on the turnbuckles, flexing a bicep pose. I look at the belt, all that regular shit you do when you win a championship. I fall to my knees. All my rage has dissipated quickly. I'm exhausted. Like I just got done running a bunch of 100-yard sprints. Even though my work in the main event consisted of doing exactly one move, I'm suddenly completely drained. A marathon of years and years, miles and miles has come to an end. I celebrate with the audience for a long time. I shake every hand around ringside, take every picture, give every sweaty hug. I'm the WWE champion. As I wrote down I would be on notebooks when I was 12, as I insisted to myself I could be internally through all the miles, the training, the studying, abject poverty, pain, frustration, doubt. I'm the WWE champ, and all the fucking pricks who said I wouldn't or couldn't make it at one point or another are all watching right now, and they can all suck my dick. This isn't the end of the road. It's just a stop. The kind of really sweet truck stop where you load up on a bunch of shit you don't need. I hope the work is just beginning. I hope it only gets harder from here, because I'd relish the opportunity to show what I could really do with this thing. But this moment might be fleeting. So for right now, fuck tomorrow, because maybe all we have is tonight, and you better believe I'm gonna enjoy it. I finally make it through the curtain. I'm startled by the round of applause, and I feel awkward. My cheeks flushed. Gorilla is packed. Many friends are waiting to congratulate me. Wrestlers, producers, writers, all kinds of people. I'm genuinely moved, but even though I would have had no problem swinging my dick around in a circle in front of the packed arena on the other side of the curtain 5 minutes ago, on this side of the curtain, in a more intimate setting, I feel embarrassed, self-conscious. I just want to not be the center of attention as quickly as possible. Renee is there. I didn't tell her what was going to happen. I never do. It's a blur as I fist bump and bro hug through the crowd and make my way to Vince, looking all sentimental and shit, slapping me on the back hard. Roman smiles as we embrace in a sweaty 3-way shield hug. At some point tonight, each one of the 3 of us held the title. Seth beams with pride. The story of our brotherhood seems to carry more emotional weight with fans than your typical storyline. We all know we're part of something special, and tonight wasn't just an unforgettable moment, but a beautiful ending to the story arc of the Shield. At least for now. There's always Monday. Under normal circumstances, I drive to Phoenix tonight for Raw. But friends of mine, Farmer, Sean Bonham, we're all at the show and a bunch of people want to come over to celebrate. So instead, I climb into the passenger seat of that goddamn Mini Cooper Renee used to drive. I hated that thing. It was like driving a fucking go-kart. I slide the seat back as far as it goes and recline. Starman by David Bowie plays on the stereo. I turn it up, roll down the windows, and let the dry desert night air rush over me. We don't speak, but I put Starman on repeat, and we listened to it 3 or 4 times in a row. Maybe 12 minutes later, we turn onto our street, passing the gas station on the corner about a half mile from the house. We pull into the driveway and turn off the car. Renee asks, "So what do you want to do?" "I want to walk to the gas station, get a pack of cigarettes and a tall boy," I reply. That's exactly what we did. End of the book. April 9th, Tampa, 4 Points Sheridan, 7:05 p.m. I haven't showered today. There's still blood in my ears. I showered twice last night, but it's hard to get all that shit out. I wrestled Josh Barnett at Bloodsport last night at the Cuban Club in Ybor City, part of GCW's collective. It's WrestleMania week. It's not as wild here as it would be traditionally. While things seem to be turning a corner as far as COVID is concerned, we're still a ways away from back to normal. It wasn't even hard to book a hotel in Tampa. Normally the whole city is sold out during Mania week. I'll probably never perform at WrestleMania itself again. There's really no need to. The electricity I felt last night, Bulldog choking Josh and squeezing his head for every drop of juice I could after kneeing him in the face, is just as supercharged and powerful as anything I could have gotten in the stadium on Sunday. The last time I went toe-to-toe with a former UFC heavyweight champion during Mania week, it was in front of 70,000 fans or some shit. Who knows, because they make all those numbers up. This time it was in front of a limited audience of 750, outdoors in a parking lot. There is a stark difference in the two experiences. In the first, I felt dead, disconnected. It's like a dream I had once. In the second, I felt alive, truly alive, testing my abilities as an athlete and using all my skills as a storyteller to create a piece of grotesque pro wrestling noir. It's 7:28 now. I need to shower soon and get dressed. I went to bed around 7 a.m. after eating pizza on the street with Josh and Chris Dickinson and smoking Virginia Slims I got from a guy who, now that I think about it, for sure thought I was hitting on him. I woke up about noon, still on adrenaline with the worst headache I've had in years. A combination of whiskey, said Virginia Slims, and the fact that a 270-pound polar bear had opened my skull up with his elbow like he was trying to crack a walnut. I gotta head back to the Cuban Club here soon. The show starts at 8, but I don't want to get there before doors. I don't want fans to see me. I'm a surprise at the end of Joey Janela's spring break. I will confront Nick Gage, king of the death matches, folk hero, and the guy who almost cut my tongue out with a pizza cutter 10 years ago. I'm not confronting him because I'm still mad about that or anything, but just because it's something we think people will want to see. I can't deny them that. It's 7:39. A Korn concert, a performance from Woodstock 99 is playing on YouTube on the TV. Man, YouTube has come a long way. I sip a stiff cocktail. It burns. I'm coming to life now, visualizing this moment. I hope the people go nuts. I hope they're happy and excited. It's a good story. Two guys who nearly killed each other 10 years ago but haven't laid eyes on each other since. I told Nikki last night the important thing was just don't move a muscle. I know you're going to want to, but don't move a fucking muscle, I told him. Let them get their phones out and take their pictures. Let every image be imprinted on their brains like frames in a graphic novel. Let all the cameras do the work for us. Let the magic of pro wrestling happen. 10 years ago, Nikki went to prison for robbing a bank. In the interim, I went and did what I did, sold a few t-shirts or whatever. But we find ourselves here again. Today is my anniversary. I have a vagina on my head. My wife isn't mad at me yet. She might be later. I think I want to DDT Nikki on a bundle of light tubes. It seems right to me. The button at the end of the night. Yeah, fuck it. It's got to be light tubes. I haven't fucked with tubes in a decade. Once you add light tubes into the equation, everything changes. You're gonna get cut. I can wear a jacket, but the glass finds a way to crawl all over you into any tiny little crevice it can. It's invasive, like fire ants. But fuck. Yeah, it's gotta be tubes. I will stop and get a bunch of flowers before returning home tomorrow. I will ring the doorbell and play Unchained Melody on my phone, holding an ample amount of bouquets. Renee will open the door and smile. We will hug and kiss. She will be happy. We will have some sex. She didn't marry the guy who was too much of a pussy to stay an extra day in Tampa to DDT Nick fucking Gage onto a pile of glass. She married the guy who did. 7:59. I called an Uber. He's 8 minutes away. I'm gonna go shower. This concludes Mox by Jon Moxley. Narrated by Jon Moxley. Copyright 2021 by Jon Moxley. This unabridged audiobook is published by arrangement with Post Hill Press and was produced in the year 2022 by Tantor Media, Incorporated, a division of Recorded Books, which holds the copyright thereto. Please visit tantor.com for more information on our growing library of unabridged audiobooks.
Like I say this a lot, we're